Chapter 603. Old Man Pai really wanted to stop Zhang Xiaobao, who was preparing to rest, to ask about the logistics. Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao was tired, he felt that the expert should be tired too. He suppressed his anxiety and said, after dinner, "Let the doctor give you a massage. You can sit on the pole together." "Okay, thank you, Grandpa Bai. I heard that there are many herbs here, and some animals can also be used as medicine. If you want to help the local people, you can set up a shop here to buy herbs. You can exchange them with salt and cloth. It's best to take the opportunity to find a few people who are willing to teach here and enlighten the people. Now we have to discuss things with others. How can we still be the land and people of the Tang Empire?" The more Zhang Xiaobao thought about it, the more sullen he felt. He did not blame the local people but the officials who used to work here. They did not ask for relief supplies from the imperial court when there was a disaster, and they even had to pay tribute every year. They only wanted to get but were not prepared to pay. Now the people were also not willing to pay. If this was a place where his father was an official, he only needed to call for help when he encountered difficulties, and the people would immediately respond to the call. For example, the donation in Wangjiang was like this. In Idyll, no one would care about you even if you shouted until your voice was hoarse. You left a mess behind, and it was under the circumstances that there was no time to manage it. Old Man Pai also knew the situation here. There were not many people, and if they did not help, it would not be good in the long run. The Zhang family had the ability to manage. If they gave them 2 years, they would be able to make the local people better. However, the Zhang family came here to organize the logistics, not to manage the local area. There were more important tasks waiting for the Zhang family to do. Wouldn't it be a waste to leave them in a province with a population of 4,000? Xiao Bao's suggestion was good, but who would be willing to come? Thinking of this, he asked Xiao Bao, "Do you think others are willing to come here to teach the people?" "Yes, there are. Not only that, there are many. The current court officials are allowed to have children according to their ranks. The number of children they have is also different. There are many children in aristocratic families who don't have the ability to take over the position. They can't all be illiterate, right? They couldn't be overshadowed by officials, and they didn't have a position in the clan. If they were told to come here, they would be given an official position, and they would fight to get it. Another benefit was that no matter what their position was in the clan would give them some support for the sake of face. Find 100 descendants of aristocratic families. When they see that the lives of the people here are not good, they will naturally think of a way. After 2 or 3 years of training, the hedonistic descendants will also mature. I believe that most of them will understand what is called responsibility. If such people are given an official position, there is no need to worry that they will not do well. Zhang Xiaobao felt that he didn't have the time to take care of the people in Idyll, so he found someone to take care of them. This place was so poor that no one could have any bad intentions. Once the descendants of aristocratic families came here for an official position, it was impossible for them not to develop. Old Man Pai listened to Zhang Xiaobao's words and couldn't help but nod. He knew that Xiao Bao didn't have anyone to teach him this method. Xiao Bao just thought of it casually. He seemed to have more insight than before. Sigh. It would be great if all the descendants of aristocratic families could be like Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They would be sensible and sensible. Go and rest. Let this old man think about it and see if this matter can be done. Old Man Pai sighed with emotion and turned to find Old Man Yao to discuss this matter. This was not a small matter, and it required the emperor's approval. It was not easy to give an official position. Of course, it depended on the person. If Xiao Bao wanted an official position now, there was no need for Zhang Zhong to do it. The imperial court would arrange it. After living for so long, he had never seen children like Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. There was no doubt about the standard of the Zhang family's cooks. The food was not ready yet, but the fragrance was spread out with the wind. Even if the local people didn't help, they were willing to watch the fun. It was impossible to say that they were not tempted by the smell of the food. They wanted to experience how it felt to eat it. They were both cooking meat, but the food they made smelled so good. No one knew what was in it. Also, the chicken soup was more delicious than the soup made by the mountain pheasant. When it was time to eat, other than the protection team who changed shifts, everyone else picked up their utensils and stood in line to wait. Ever since they ate with the Zhang family and the Wang family, the others stopped cooking. They could not swallow the food they made and just waited for the ready-made food. It had nothing to do with laziness. After all, the food made by the Zhang family and the Wang family was delicious. Everyone had a good relationship with each other. The only thing they had to worry about was what if they could not eat it in the future. Zhang Xiaobao said that he would drink soup, and he really only drank a little soup. He asked someone to boil it with the wild herbs that could be found here. After drinking it quickly, he and Wang Wan went to find a place to rest. Fang Sima and the others ate bowl after bowl. No one knew what they were thinking. They drank tea while eating. Perhaps they thought that it could help them digest faster and eat more. Governor Zhang, is this your family's cook? Delicious, really delicious. Fang Sima really could not eat anymore. Looking at the food in front of him competing with him, he drank the seafood soup slowly and leaned on the stool as he asked Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong ate slowly and did not have an appetite. One reason was that the situation in the area was not very optimistic. Another reason was that he had not eaten the food cooked by his son and daughter-in-law for several days. To be honest, the food cooked by the chef was really good. However, no matter how he ate, he felt that it was not as good as the food cooked by his son and daughter-in-law. Even if his son and daughter-in-law did not tell him in advance when they were cooking, as long as he ate, he could taste it, especially when it came to the combination of seasonings. His son only needed to smell it to know how much seasoning should be put in during this period of time. It was called accurate. He did not know how to practice. Zhang Zhong did not know that his son used to sell 13 spices. It would be strange if he could not smell the richness and age of each seasonings. Hearing Fang Sima's praise, he said a little absent-mindedly, "It's not bad. Can be eaten. Every chef is proficient in different things. This seafood soup was not made by the best chef. He went to stew. When there is a chance, I will let you taste the real delicacy. My son Xiao Bao and daughter-in-law Cuckoo made it." Zhang Zhong was speaking the truth. However, in Fang Sima's ears, it was not the case. Governor Zhang's son and daughter-in-law can cook? I am convinced. If my son can cook, I will also feel that it is the most delicious food in the world. Governor Zhang, is the chef you brought an imperial chef? What is an imperial chef? Usually, they have to use the seasoning specially sent to the palace by my family. Many dishes have to be written and sent to them for them to learn. They are all like ghosts chasing after you, regardless of whether you are busy or not. When the emperor is tired of a certain dish, he will rush to send a new dish. If such an imperial chef really came to my family, I would not want him. It was also the truth, but Fang Sima felt awkward when he heard it. He thought in his heart, if you are so good, you can send recipes to the emperor. Why would you be sent to Idyll? You are too arrogant. Fang Sima did not dare to offend him on the surface. He humbly asked for advice. Then why is the chef in your family so good? If the chef in the restaurant is not good, won't he die of loss? The chain restaurant Between the Clouds and the Water and Between the Sea and the Clouds is owned by my family. There is also the Savant's restaurant in the capital. Zhang Zhong put down his chopsticks and signaled the person beside him to bring a bowl of wild vegetable soup that his son had just drunk. Ah, Between the Clouds and the Water is owned by your family? Then you are Zhang Zhong, aren't you? Fang Sima was surprised. After saying this, he remembered that the other party was called Zhang Zhong and told him when he came. Smiling embarrassedly, Fang Sima changed his previous attitude and became even more respectful. He sat up straight and didn't dare to speak as loudly as before. Instead, he said softly, "Lord Zhang, I didn't know that you were coming. Sorry for the disrespect. If I had known that you were Zhang Zhong of Sanshui County, I would have eaten slower and tasted more. Maybe I could eat more." While Zhang Zhong was wondering if he had such a big reputation, Fang Sima continued, "To be honest, my son is studying at Jianjia Academy in Sanshui County. When he went there, he was only given money for traveling expenses. He left the year before last. I don't know what to do when he comes to the capital. But 2 months before you came, my son sent a letter saying that he is now rich and has been praised by the teacher. He is going to take the exam this year and will definitely come back with honors. He said that the job was arranged by the Zhang family, and that he was going to teach while learning. He taught all the children of the Zhang family and the Wang family. In the letter, He said that the children of the Zhang family and the Wang family were excellent. When they started teaching, they were always asked questions. They had no choice but to work hard so that they could teach others. Just like the couplet in the Zhuangzi school of the Zhang family and the Wang family, it said, "Before educating others, educate yourself. Read and read the heart." In the letter, he also wrote many things between the clouds and the water, which made people yearn for it. When they were worried that they would not have the chance to see it, "Lord Zhang, you came. But I don't understand, Lord Zhang, why are you here?" Feng Sima was puzzled. Why did such an official come to Idyll? Did he offend someone he could not afford to offend? Zhang Zhong, on the other hand, did not care at all. He smiled and said, "Being an official anywhere is the same. As long as I can let the common people live a good life, I will also feel at ease. The 3 dynasties have a difficult man as a general, and the 4 seas are at peace. One day, when the common people of my dynasty all live a good life, I will retire and return to my hometown. I will be a rich man, and let Xiaobao and Wan have 2 more children to be happy at my knees. Suong is a good place, but I don't want to be an official. I will go wherever it is difficult and let the people live a good life. Idyll is poor, so I am happy to come here." Zhang Zhong, who did not know about this mission, really wanted to be a good local official. Hearing Zhang Zhong's words, Feng Sima stood up and bowed respectfully. He said, "Your Excellency has a good temperament. I admire you. When you first came here, I didn't think much about this place. Now that I know you are here, I am relieved. If you have any orders in the future, I will rush to the front and let the people of Idyll live a good life." Feng Sima was not flattering. If it were someone else, he would not dare to be so bold. But he knew Zhang Zhong. In the letter, his son had written about Zhang Zhong in detail. Every time he went to a place, no matter how the place was like, he would definitely make the local people rich. It was too easy for such a person to govern Idyll, which had a population of 4,000. Zhang Zhong also stood up. With Feng Sima's words, "I will make Idyll a prosperous place in 2 years." Just as the two of them were appreciating each other, Old Man Bai, who was not too far away, had a worried expression on his face. He said to Old Man Zhang and Old Man Yao, "It seems that Xiaobao, Cuckoo, and the 2 masters of the Zhang family really did not tell others about this matter. Zhang Zhong is still in the mood to govern this place. We have to talk to him. Otherwise, it will be a waste of time. Let's see how the imperial court will discuss this matter. If they agree to let the sons of aristocratic families come here, there will be no need for Zhang Zhong. It's time to talk to him. At the same time, we have to ask Xiaobao and Cuckoo what the arrangement is. If we told them earlier, they should have made preparations in advance. Why can't they see it when they arrive? Can't they think of a way?" Old Man Yao was also anxious. He was not worried about whether Idyll could be governed well. If there was really nothing else, he would let Zhang Zhong manage it well. With the ability of a master, it was too easy. The problem was that he could not do it now. Along the way, the Zhang family did not seem to have made any preparations at all. Old Man Chong swallowed half a steamed bun and said, "Let's wait and see. Maybe they are making arrangements. Let's not disturb them." Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao had to listen to Old Man Chong and continue to wait. If the Zhang family could not do it, then others could not. Everyone had their own thoughts. When the meal was almost finished, a lot of people suddenly appeared in the city. It was estimated that there were more than 100 of them. They walked straight towards them. Send someone to ask. Could it be that they want to rebel? Feng Sima said nervously. Before anyone went over, the people of the Zhang family had already contacted them. They came back and reported, "Master. They said that they want to help and thank you." The temperature difference is too big. When we were eating at noon, we felt stuffy. These 3 hours have been cold. Wang Wan reached in and touched the forehead of the little ones. They didn't have a fever. She was relieved and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "The sun is blocked by the mountain, and the humidity is heavy. The ventilation of the house can't be sealed. The body's heat is lost. It would be strange if it wasn't cold. Look, the temperature inside is only 16 degrees. Someone put a few hot water bags in." Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the sky and ordered very discontentedly. Didn't he emphasize that the temperature in the house should be kept between 23 and 27 degrees? What were these people doing? The maidservant was wronged and explained in a low voice, "Little master, it's very humid here. It will be even more humid if you put a hot water bag in. The blanket has been changed twice. Every time it is changed, it will become humid after a while. Still, let Xiaobei and the others warm first. We'll think of other ways." Zhang Xiaobao didn't need to touch the blanket. He could feel how humid his clothes were. As a few hot water bags were put in, the temperature rose. The expressions of the little ones changed. The eyebrows of the little ones on both sides gradually relaxed. Perhaps it was because they had a happy dream, and there was a smile on their faces. Wang Wan looked at the house, opened the compartment, and said in a while, "Send someone to take down the complete set of things from the ship. In order to reduce the weight, take out the lime inside. Add some good charcoal and use it as a drying agent. It's okay if it's bitter for the adults, but definitely not for the children. Xiaobao, think about it. What can be recycled and dried? Yes, there is a material that can absorb the moisture in the air. When it absorbs to saturation, the water inside will flow down to the groove below due to the influence of gravity." Chapter 605. Old Man Pai and the others said that they would set off in 3 days, but they only waited for 2.5 days before they arrived. They seemed to have chosen the most difficult road in Idyll. General Guotu waited by the river and asked Zhang Zhong to go out. Zhang Zhong was still discussing with Fang Sima how to make the local people live a better life when he was informed to receive the imperial edict. The person who announced the imperial edict was Old Man Yao. He didn't put on any airs and didn't need to set up an incense table. He handed the imperial edict to Zhang Zhong and said, "Yongqing, this is the imperial edict. Take a look. Go out and meet General Guo. Then you can come back and continue your work. If you need to transfer Chongpingsong, you can go to Idyll Prefecture to get it. Remember to write it into a memorial and send it to the capital." The meaning in his words was very clear. That was, "Zhang Zhong, you should still be the provincial governor in Wing Prefecture. Don't you need to worry about the logistics? Don't you want to take care of the local people's lives? If you don't have anything, go to Idyll to get it. You can decide how much to take. Just let me know." Hearing Old Man Yao's words, Zhang Zhong opened the imperial edict in confusion. The more he read, the more shocked he was. Didn't they say that Idyll was not easy to manage and that's why he was transferred here? Why was there a war in the blink of an eye? Logistics? Grain officer? Without any preparation, where would the grain come from? Old Man Yao and the others saw Zhang Zhong's expression and were very satisfied. It meant that the two masters of the Zhang family didn't tell Zhang Zhong. Even Xiaobao and Cuckoo didn't tell. They did a good job of keeping secrets. It was good that father and son could do this. They didn't know that Zhang Xiaobao didn't tell his family because he didn't want them to worry. Besides, it was useless even if he told them. The responsibility fell on him and Wang Wan. There was no need to worry. After being excited for a while, Zhang Zhong rolled up the imperial edict and calmed down. He nodded and said, "Zhang Zhong accepts the imperial edict. I'll go to see General Guo now." After that, Zhang Zhong turned back to change his clothes. In fact, he just wanted to ask his son and daughter-in-law what was going on. War was not child's play. If something were to happen, they would not be able to bear the consequences. Zhang Zhong's reaction made the 3 old men even more convinced that the 2 masters of the Zhang family were Zhang Zhong's backbone. Otherwise, how could he be so calm? When Zhang Zhong found his son and daughter-in-law, the 2 of them had just finished writing a plan. Wang Wan had written about the grain deposit, and Zhang Xiaobao had written about the local governance. "Xiaobao, do you know about this imperial edict?" Zhang Zhong was very angry. As soon as he entered and saw the 2 people, he asked Zhang Xiaobao with a sullen face, "Xiaobao, do you know about this imperial edict?" "I know, but Grandpa didn't allow me to say it. Besides, it's useless even if I did. Do you think I can just not come just because I want to?" "Father, you don't have to worry about this, it's all been arranged. I have a plan for economic development here, take a look. Me and Wan won't be able to be with our family for a while, we have to go to the front. Father, you just have to do as I say, don't worry about anything happening." The moment Zhang Xiaobao saw the imperial edict, he knew that it was time to leave. He and Wang Wan had to go. Otherwise, in the situation where there was no communication, the situation on the battlefield was unpredictable. It was easy for something to go wrong. He handed the plan to his father. With a bang, Zhang Zhong angrily slapped the plan to the ground. He pointed at Zhang Xiaobao and said, You didn't even discuss such an important matter with us. You want to anger me to death? Do you think it's enough to spend money on war? Is it as easy as governing? You let me. You sigh. As Zhang Zhong spoke, he suddenly sighed. He realized that the result was the same whether his son and daughter-in-law told him or not. The emperor asked them to come here to do something. How could they not come? Even if the two families knew about it in advance, what could they do? In the end, the responsibility fell on his son and daughter-in-law. As a result, his son picked up the plan. Zhang Zhong frowned and asked, My son, you just stay in Yingzhou and command. Can't you not go? Swords and spears have no eyes. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and said, Father, how can I command if I don't go? This time only 15,000 soldiers will be dispatched. They are divided into 15 reinforced battalions. 5 battalions will be dispatched from Jiannan Circuit, and the other 10 battalions will be dispatched from Shannon West Circuit. There are too few people. It must be a sudden attack. If they win, everything will be fine. If they lose, if there is even a little bit of logistical problem, they will have to bear the responsibility. Not to mention that the emperor wants his subjects to die. Even as a member of the Tang Empire, we have to fight. The people of Wangjiang are still waiting for us. This is a matter of the people's hearts and dignity. If you don't fight back after being bullied, they will bully you next time. Besides, Cuckoo and I are only in charge of logistics. We won't go to the front to fight, nor will we leave the border. The furthest we can go is to the border to find a safe place to hide. Who will target 2 children? When Zhang Xiaobao said this, he was very grateful for this era. Not to mention the martial arts, even the literati respected martial arts. Living in this era was much more comfortable. There was no such thing as being bullied and not daring to fight back. If you kill one of my people, I will slaughter your village. Otherwise, how could Korea and Japan be my subjects? Zhang Zhong was also excited by his son's words. He usually practiced swordsmanship and archery. When he thought that his son and daughter-in-law would not rush to the front, he was relieved. My son, since this is the case, then go. Remember, be very careful. Bring the members of the Zero team. I will also train the other members of the Seedling Protection team. If there is a shortage of people, you can make up for it. Remember to bring more people from the inner yard. I will wait for you to avenge the people of Wangjiang. Zhang Zhong suppressed the reluctance in his heart and patted his son's shoulder. At this moment, Zhang Xiaobao suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of excitement. It was just like when he had lost someone he could rely on to find his own path. He was not afraid, but filled with confidence and anticipation for the future. Zhang Zhong changed his clothes and brought his son and daughter-in-law to meet Guotu by the river. The team was not small. There were 56 members of the Seedling Protection team, 30 people from the inner yard, 200 guards borrowed from Li Suan, and other idlers. It took them more than 2 hours to meet General Guotu's. Zhang Zhong was nominally the person in charge of this matter. Naturally, he was the one to talk to Guotu's. Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan accompanied him. Guotu looked to be in his 40s. His beard was not short from his cheeks to his ears. He did not look like a scholarly general in Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's imagination. He spoke straightforwardly and did not show any respect to Zhang Zhong. It sounded like he was constantly questioning Zhang Zhong, asking if he had prepared the provisions. Zhang Zhong did not get angry with the other party. He answered briefly, and the meeting was over. Guotu arrogantly led the team and left hurriedly. The team began to return, but Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan stayed behind with a group of people. They looked at the departing team, called out to them, and followed behind. I don't understand. Why did they send people from the Shannon West Circuit instead of those from the Jiannan West Circuit? They might not be familiar with the climate here. Zhang Xiaobao muttered as he rode on the mule. They have too much money to burn, so they can train the soldiers. It's naturally easier for the border troops here, but it's also impossible for the soldiers in other places not to train. I reckon that Li Longji is planning to go big this time. Speaking of which, we are also responsible for this. Who asked us to govern this place so well, especially when we gave away so many technologies for the people's livelihood? If it weren't for those technologies, Li Longji would still be worrying about the lives of the people. Now he can relax. Any person in power will have thoughts of expansion when they know that the economy can develop. Wang Wan was also riding on a mule. She was biting on an unripe apple in her hand. It was bitter and astringent, but she still enjoyed eating it. She also answered Zhang Xiaobao's questions while she was at it. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. That's about right. Who cares what he thinks, we'll just live our lives. Luckily, I made preparations in advance. There are indeed many horses. Is the terrain suitable for riding horses? I don't know what they're thinking, but the distance from here to Jinchuan City in Jinshui is about 150 to 160 kilometers, right? Let's see how they're going to get there in 10 days. From the map, there's a small mountain there. It's the most difficult snow mountain to climb back then. Do you think they can just go around it? It'll be fine when they get to Jinchuan. There's a big river there and a flat plain. It's suitable for cavalry to attack. If it were me, I would let the light infantry go first. The cavalry at the back would be responsible for transporting the armor. The infantry's mission is to kill every village they see. Even if they don't kill, they have to lock them up. Once the cavalry went around the mountain and caught up with the infantry in front, the cavalry would split up. One group would go north and then east across the Ruhr River to harass the reinforcements that might appear in the northwest. The other group would go down, ignoring the surrounding villages, and force their way into Damba city to feign an attack. A group of infantry would also follow behind the Damba cavalry to create momentum. Each person would raise a stove and change the group flag to the formation flag, driving the people to Jinchuan City. The rest of the infantry would split into a battalion to form a formation in the north and south. The main force would move slightly north to the shore of the Ruhr River. They would set up camp, secretly cut firewood, and sail day and night, diagonally facing Jinchuan City. The cavalry at the front would go around the city to block the reinforcements coming from the west. They would lead the people into the city, encircle but not attack, wasting the provisions of Jinchuan. They would wait for the enemy to move troops from all sides to encircle and suppress them. In the northwest, the light cavalry would go south and point their swords at Jinchuan. When they crossed the river at Jinchuan, they would retreat. The cavalry in the west would take a detour and cross the river together with them. Feigning an attack on Damba, the infantry would cross the river and flee to the west. They would try to lure Damba to send troops to form an encirclement with the soldiers of Jinchuan City and the enemy. At that time, the battalion that drove the people away would quickly regroup and retreat to the border. The cavalry and the camping troops would go down the Ruhr River and attack Damba. After that, they would retreat from Chengdu and place the troops on the west side of Damba. They would either succeed in converging with the troops attacking Damba or Wang Wan couldn't go to the front line to command. She could only talk about strategy on paper. As she talked, she didn't say anything in the end. That meant that the other troops had given up. Zhang Xiaobao didn't know about this kind of military matters. When he heard Wang Wan's words, he sighed and said, "It's really based on Jun Mo's words. A general success is built on the bones of thousands of people. I don't know about war, but according to what you said, it's better to equip the cavalry that feigned an attack on Damba with 2 or 3 horses. When the infantrymen converged, the horses would be distributed to the infantrymen. After that, the infantrymen would finish luring the enemy and attack Damba. A small number of them would row boats to the south and wait for a while. Those who have horses would use the speed to go around the river and cross the river to the south. Maybe a few more of them would come back. Let's not talk about this anymore. It's not like I'm the one leading the troops. The situation on the battlefield is constantly changing. No one can grasp it so well, especially when we don't know the information of the enemy's generals. If Damba sees an opportunity and doesn't make a move, then all of our arrangements would be ruined. Or maybe the general of Jinchuan is a simple-minded person. When he sees the enemy coming to attack, he clearly doesn't know how many troops the enemy has and leads the troops to cross the river and attack the main camp of the infantrymen. This will also disrupt the plan. After Wang Wan finished explaining her battle plan, she felt comfortable in her heart. She swayed on the mule and followed the troops forward slowly. Even if she wanted to go fast, she couldn't. The next day at noon, the sky became gloomy. The local people who were familiar with the weather knew that it was going to rain. If it didn't rain, it would probably stop at night. It would let the humid and hot weather cool down for a few days. Riding on the horse, Guotu raised his head and looked at the sky. His face also became gloomy. If it really rained, not to mention reaching Jinchuan in 10 days, they wouldn't even be able to reach Pengzhou. They would still have to travel through Jiannan province with difficulty. Every day they delayed would make it easier for Tubo to discover them. Great General, why don't we let the lightly armed infantrymen go first and watch over the local villages? After that we can burn the fields and let Tubo fall into chaos for a while. Lu Jun was also worried. He rode to the side and suggested. Wei Wei shook Guotu's head. No, if the infantrymen go first, the cavalry will be even slower if they help to transport the goods. Perhaps by the time we reach Jinchuan, Tubo will have already arranged their troops and are waiting for us to attack. At that time, the advantage of the cavalry will be used. Moreover, although we said that we are going to launch a sneak attack, we don't really plan to launch a sneak attack. With 15,000 people, even if we can't take down Jinchuan, we will be able to make Tubo not dare to make any big moves. When the time comes, we will seize the land and harvest the food. Let's see how Tubo will deal with it. Will the soldiers of our dynasty not be able to wield their sabers? What this general is worried about is whether the provisions can keep up. If the army is everywhere and the provisions are not delivered within 5 days, this general will definitely not spare Zhang Zhong. Send out an order to the entire army to increase their speed. Take advantage of the time before it rains and make it out of the rainy area. As you command. Lu Jun also knew that if the infantrymen were to advance, it would be easy for Tubo to discover them in advance. If they really listened to him and something happened, he wouldn't be able to bear the responsibility. Thus he could only follow orders. Xiao Bao, it is going to rain. This is really a bad start. I hope that our arrangements will be effective. I am puzzled. How did you know that it would rain? Wang Wan, who had also noticed the change in the weather, didn't sit on her mule anymore. She ran over to Zhang Xiaobao's mule and sat in front of Zhang Xiaobao. This way when it rained they wouldn't have to worry about the front and back getting wet. With a large umbrella, the two of them could lean on each other for warmth. Zhang Xiaobao hugged Wang Wan and took a few deep breaths. After he felt a little more comfortable, he said, "How would I know that it would rain today? I only know that it often rains in Sichuan. There are many mountains here, and when the hot air flows over, it will encounter the cold airflow of the mountains at high altitudes. In addition to the effect of the mountains, it is very easy for it to form rain. It is also good that it is raining. It will let Guotu see what logistics is. This time we have paid a lot of money, and I don't think Li Longji will be able to return it to us. Maybe he will just give us some policies. I am thinking about what policies we should ask for when the time comes. Policies are better than giving money directly." Think so too. The imperial court won't be able to take out so much money to return it. What kind of policies do we need? Something that reduces taxes? That's not good. We should pay the taxes. If we don't, the country will be short of money. It would be best if it is related to the tea and horse trade. I remember that there was a person who was 3 years older than me in the courtyard where my family used to live. He made a lot of money by getting a customs clearance from his father. When he got a customs clearance, other people would partner with him to do business. They would split the profits 50 to 50. At that time, other people also advised me to ask my family for money to repair the roads. But I don't like to make money. Why don't we also have a road repair policy? Wang Wan was the person who understood the benefits of a policy the most. With a policy there would be a lot of money. How could Zhang Xiaobao agree to such a policy? He said, "No, definitely not. Even if you give it to me for free, I don't want it. We might even have to fork out the money to repair the roads. Who are we going to earn from then? There are no tolls to be collected. It would be best if we could get a decree that allows free trade at the borders. Both on land and in the sea are fine." The rain finally fell from the sky. Guotu's team couldn't get out of the rain area. Not to mention that people and horses were walking on bad roads. Even if a sports car was driving on the highway, they wouldn't be able to avoid the rain. The range of the rain was too large. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's team put on their raincoats and umbrellas. Even the mules were covered with a layer of oilcloth. They continued to move forward in the wind and rain. Their speed was even faster than the army in front of them. Of course, the fighting ability of the team led by the two people was much better than the army in front of them. Although there were less than 300 people, it was not a problem for them to deal with the army in front of them. Quick, faster. Find a place to take shelter from the rain. Guotu's beard was completely soaked by the rain, and his armor was also soaked. He wiped his face with his hand and shouted. There was no need for him to say more. The 15,000 people also tried their best to hurry on, hoping to find a comfortable place to rest. At least they had to set up their tents. In such a narrow place they couldn't even set up a tent. There was a mountain next to them, and the water kept rushing down. After an hour, the path soaked by the rain became even more difficult to walk on. Just when Guotu didn't know where to vent his anger, a flat area finally appeared in front of them. A tent had already been set up there. There was a fire in the tent, and when the wind blew they could smell the aroma of food. Guotu picked up his binoculars and looked around. He said to Xiaoling, who was next to him, "Let's go and see what's going on." Xiaoling nodded and hurriedly ran forward. Before he reached the place, someone came out to meet him. He stood in the middle of the road and also looked in their direction with a pair of binoculars. Ah, clairvoyance? What's up ahead? How come there's also a clairvoyance? Who leaked it? Guotu looked at the person in front of him through the curtain of rain. This time he didn't feel uncomfortable but angry. Could just anyone have a clairvoyance? There were marks in the army, and whoever had one would be recorded in a book. If everyone had one, how could other countries not have one? This thing was a precious treasure. Perhaps the person standing in the middle of the road also considered the issue of identity. He took out a flag, put away the binoculars, and pulled the flag open with both hands so that the people in the group could see it. At this time, the people in front of the group had already stopped and looked at this person warily. Guotu tried hard to look at that person's flag. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Who knows what that flag is?" "It's drawn in a way that's neither human nor ghost. Looking at it vaguely, it looks like a rice sprout." When the army officer heard this, he remembered something. He moved closer and said, "General, are you sure it's a rice sprout? Isn't it a very interesting rice sprout with big eyes and thin arms?" "Yes." Guotu nodded in response. The army officer was relieved and said, "General, that's the flag of the Zhang family. It's the special flag of the family of Governor Zhang Zhong, who is in charge of logistics. It's between the clouds and the water." "Oh, I see. But what's his family doing here?" As soon as Guotu heard between the clouds and the water, he knew who it was. He was even more puzzled. At this time, Xiaoling was near the people in front of the group. After talking for a while, he ran back happily. General, good news, very good news. This is the resting place that the logistics camp of Idyll prepared for us. They set up a shelter from the rain and cooked meat porridge. They told us to rest there. He said that there's also medicine. I'm afraid we'll get sick." Xiaoling excitedly reported to Guotu's day. Guotu was immediately stunned. The army officer next to him called out twice before he recovered. He said in disbelief, "What? The logistics camp? How did they go to the front and set up a shelter? Let's go and have a look." Guotu wasn't the only one who was surprised. The other generals and soldiers were also surprised by what they saw. It was the first time they heard that the people in charge of escorting provisions were in charge of this kind of thing. When the group in front of the army entered the shelter, Guotu found the person in charge here. "General Guo, this way please. There's tea and snacks here." "General Guo, you've worked hard," the person in charge here said respectfully to Guotu's day. Guotu felt that he was scolding people. If he had worked hard, what were the people here? Since when did the logistics team become so crazy? Yes, it was usually said that before the troops and horses moved, the provisions would move first. But it was just a saying. He had never seen it before. Today he had learned something new. The people in charge of logistics ran to the front of the army and set up a shelter and porridge. If all the people in charge of logistics had this kind of ability, who would be the main force? Thinking of this, Guotu had to ask. If he didn't ask, he would feel that there was one more thing in his heart. At this time he regretted his attitude towards Zhang Zhong and Idyll. He thought that Zhang Zhong, a civil official, couldn't do anything. Now he understood. Looking at the shelter, it was clear that it could be used to attack and retreat. It was actually set up in a marching formation. This was in the territory of the Tang Empire. He didn't even send out scouts. If the other party could set up such a formation, it meant that they were used to it. It wasn't deliberate at all. Could it be that the Zhang family had been in the army for generations? How did you get here? Guotu asked. Replying to the general, we came here in advance. The main family said that there would be a lot of rain in early autumn. In order not to delay the army's journey, we set up the shelter in advance. When it rains, we set it up. 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 Chapter 606. Hearing what the person in charge said, Guotu's face was burning. He was embarrassed to set up the tent in such a hurry. The tent was set up in the heavy rain, the fire was lit, and the meat porridge was cooked. If this wasn't good enough, then what was? No wonder the imperial court sent Zhang Zhong here in such a hurry. The imperial court did not send anyone else to be in charge of logistics. Turned out that this was the reason. Zhang Zhong seemed to have just arrived in Idyll not long ago. 5 days? How did he do it? General, take off your clothes first. Here is a clean towel. Your clothes will be dry in a while. The straw raincoat and bamboo hat are also ready. After the meal, we can continue on the road. If anyone is not feeling well, you can take some medicine. It's for colds. The person in charge still said respectfully. Guotu did not dare to neglect him at this time. His strength was there for all to see. He also said politely, thank you. I didn't expect to meet people from the logistics camp in such a situation. You came in time. You are really extraordinary. Guotu was indeed speaking from the bottom of his heart. It was the dream of every general to have such logistics to provide assistance to the troops. It was too comfortable. If they could not win the battle, they would be letting down the people in charge of logistics. The soldiers also made up their minds while drinking the hot meat porridge. Even if they had to die, they would kill more people. Otherwise, how could they have the face to come back and see others? Did they want to be a coward by providing good food and drink for them? Even a dog knows how to help bite people. After the meal, the clothes were almost dry. The soldiers put on their clothes, bamboo hats, and straw raincoats. When they moved forward again, they felt full of strength. General, look at the map. The road ahead is not easy to walk. There are continuous hills and the road is slippery in the rain. Do you want to think of something such as cutting some branches on the side? The team moved forward for another 2 hours, but the rain still did not stop. The officer held a military map printed with ink in his hand and said to Guotu's. This map was sent to the imperial court by the Zhang family. When Guotu saw the map, he sighed again. With the help of the clairvoyance, the Zhang family seemed to have prepared everything. Looking at the terrain on the map, Guotu hesitated for a moment and said, let's go there and take a look. The road here is narrow, so let's go quickly. If we really can't go up, we can cut down branches nearby. Half an hour later, when the team in front arrived at the foot of the hill, Guotu, who had seen the situation through the 1,000-mile eye, was shocked again. There were many people laying sand and stones on the hillside in the heavy rain. The sand and stones had been laid from the bottom of the hillside to the top of the hillside. Beside them, there was a flag that was wet and rolled up by the rain. It didn't need to be unfolded to know what was painted on it. It must be a cute rice seedling with a pair of big eyes, indicating that it was from the logistics battalion of the Zhang family in Idyll. Run forward. If anyone is delayed, you have to ask for punishment from the logistics camp. Motherfucker, did you see that? This is what we call logistics. Unimpeded. Everyone follow me. Guotu shouted excitedly and the order was passed down. The team in front rushed up the hillside in an orderly manner. When they stood on the hillside and looked down, they saw that the road here was also paved. The other hillside in front of them was also paved with sand and soil. At first glance, they knew that it was paved in sections. Looking at the figures in the rain, bending down and shoveling sand onto the road, it would be a lie to say that they weren't moved. All the soldiers had a different feeling in their hearts. If the logistics camp could do logistics to such an extent, then what about the main force? This battle could only be won, not lost, even if there was only one person left. Many of the soldiers had tears in their eyes as they walked through this so-called most difficult yet easiest mountain path. When Guotu walked over and looked back, he said with emotion, Zhang Zhong is really amazing. No one dares to challenge the Zhang family's logistics. This is good. We don't have to worry about the logistics not being able to keep up. I just don't know to what extent they can do logistics. Lu Jun listened on the side and agreed. General is right. After we win this battle, we must thank Zhang Zhong properly when we come back. No wonder the emperor transferred Zhang Zhong from Shuzhou to Yingzhou instead of sending someone else. No one else could do this. This kind of logistics is too scary. Lu Jun nodded and said, You are right. After winning this battle, we must thank Zhang Zhong properly when we come back. I just don't understand. How did they arrange all the way to Idyll? Where did they get the time? I heard that in the imperial court, Zhang Zhong's name has long been familiar and no one is allowed to impeach him. First I thought it was fake. Now it seems that it is true. Whoever impeaches Zhang Zhong has bad intentions. Not to mention that such a person rarely does anything wrong. Even if he does, he is right. No matter where he is, he can immediately take care of the local affairs. What's the big deal if he makes a mistake? General, don't you think so? Yes, that's right. If someone badmouths Zhang Zhong to me, I won't be willing either. If I have someone like Zhang Zhong as my subordinate, if anyone dares to badmouth him, the first person I'll deal with will be that person. Then I'll ask who asked him to come here. Zhang Zhong is really too comfortable to use. Guotu nodded in agreement. He had decided that after winning the battle, he would give some of the things he got to Zhang Zhong as compensation for his previous rudeness to Zhang Zhong. At that time, Zhang Zhong didn't lower himself to his level. Otherwise, he would have done something to the logistics. Now he saw that not only did he not do anything, but he also arranged it very carefully. When he looked down on Zhang Zhong, he was actually looking down on himself. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also arrived at the location of the first shed. The two of them were not in a hurry. Everything in front of them was arranged. The team stopped to rest and listen to the report of the person in charge. Young master, young lady, Guotu's team has already gone over. What do I need to do here? The person in charge brought a big bowl of soup and said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Zhang Xiaobao glanced at the soup and praised, Not bad, you put in a lot of ginger. You don't have to worry now, it's still raining. Once the rain stops, we'll act according to my plan. We'll move the logistics forward. Cuckoo has made some calculations. This attack might not be successful, so we must be prepared. Zhang Xiaobao said as he handed the new plan to the person in charge. The person in charge took it and respectfully left so that the young master and young lady could drink the soup. As for whether the young lady's judgment was wrong, he didn't even dare to think about it. What the gods said was right. He had never encountered a situation where he was wrong. It was fine to move the logistics forward. It didn't cost him anything. Wang Wan had learned to maintain appropriate silence when doing things outside. Her mother and Zhang Xiaobao's mother had taught her that when she was with a man outside, she should try to let the man take charge as much as possible. No matter how capable a woman was, she couldn't show it, let alone show that she was better than a man. Wang Wan was very obedient, not only because of her mother and future mother-in-law here, but also because it was also like this at home. Even if her father occasionally overdid things, her mother wouldn't say anything to him face to face. When the person in charge left and there was no one around to disturb the two of them, Wang Wan poked Zhang Xiaobao and said, Didn't we agree that I would be in charge of things on the battlefield? When did you write the plan? How come I didn't know? Drink the soup, drink the soup. And the soup is not bad. There's a lot of aged vinegar. Try it, Zhang Xiaobao said evasively and pushed the bowl of soup in front of Wang Wan. I'm asking you a question, please answer it directly. I just realized, Comrade Zhang Xiaobao, after being with you for so many years, why can't I see through you? Wang Wan glared at Zhang Xiaobao and said. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said, Actually, I don't know you very well. Even if I had the chance to know you, I wouldn't know. Think about it, we were originally a police officer and a bandit, so we know each other very well. We lived together here. If we really know everything, then what will we do when we grow up? Will we still have passion in bed? Men and women are attracted to each other in mystery, and conquer each other, as they gradually understand each other. Don't you want to use your own judgment to conquer me? So you want to conquer me? What do you mean by passion in bed in the future? Why does it sound awkward to me? Do you mean in the future I'll lie in bed and wait for you to conquer me? You've made it clear. Wang Wan's eyes widened. You can conquer me in the future. I'm easy to talk to. Drink the soup while it's hot. Zhang Xiaobao realized that he really didn't understand Wang Wan in this matter. What future? I'm conquering you now. How old are you? You dare to talk like this. You have to respect me. Wang Wan reached out her hand to pinch Zhang Xiaobao but stopped. She knew that this little bit of pain had no effect on Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao decided not to continue this conversation. He nodded and drank the soup with his head lowered. If his ears were good, he would be able to hear his vague words, respect you conquering me. I'll save my energy and enjoy it when I'm passive. After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan led the team to rest and continue on the road, Guotu's team came to a difficult place to walk. This time they didn't have to worry about the mud. The road ahead was full of bare stones. Some were round and some were sharp. It was very difficult for the soldiers to walk on them. The main reason was that the armor on their bodies was too heavy. If they were not careful, they would sprain their ankle or cut a wound on their calf. Guotu looked at the seemingly endless road. The first thing that came to his mind was not how to cross it, but whether the logistics camp would appear again. He stopped and looked around with his clairvoyance, hoping to get help. Just as he was about to be disappointed, a team appeared from a nearby mountain valley. His eyes lit up. General, look, are those people from the logistics camp? Too many. Where did they find so many mules? At the same time, Shun Jun also saw the situation over there and shouted excitedly. Chapter 607. Today there is an official who travels 1,000 miles to come here. Glistening white rice, cook it for me to eat. Kindness far away in the water. Today there is an official who travels 1,000 miles to come here. Fine it into salt and add it for me to eat. Kindness far away in the mountain. I think. The mountain knows, the river knows. Add to my clothes and feed me medicine. I am willing to rule with you. After his son and daughter-in-law left, Zhang Zhong suppressed the worry in his heart and began to govern. There were only about 4,000 people in a province. It was a small number, but no matter how small it was, they were still common people. Since they had come, they had to let the common people live a good life, even if their purpose was not. There was nothing to do anyway. Opening the plan left by his son, Zhang Zhong read it from beginning to end. He had a rough idea of what to do. He ordered the servants in his family to start implementing the plan that very night. Old Man Pai and the other two also stayed in the manor. It was not that they did not want to go to the front to take a look, but the weather was really unbearable. With their old arms and legs, they could only join in the fun with the Zhang family with the presence of a doctor. If they really had to march, they would die of exhaustion on the road. The three old men could not find anything interesting to do. When they were about to go and see Xiaobao and Cuckoo, they found a very serious problem. The two children were gone. They had seen them before, and Xiaobao had even told them a story. How did they disappear in the blink of an eye? After some questioning, the three old men were dumbfounded. The two children were too bold. They actually ran to the back of the army to help. If something happened, wouldn't the Zhang family and Wang family go crazy? They immediately sent 50 guards to chase after them. Now that it was almost dark and Xiaobao and Cuckoo had not returned, the people chasing after them did not believe them. When they found out that 200 of Li Sun's men had followed them, they were not so worried. They thought that as long as they followed behind and did not cross the border, nothing would happen. That night, the Zhang family and the Wang family did not work overnight to build a house. Instead, they found thick branches and started a bonfire on the flat ground outside the city. They ate the oily roasted meat, drank the boiled rice wine, and sang and danced. The commoners who helped out were also invited to join in the fun. Zhang Zhong did not mention anything about wages at all. When the commoners came to work, they had no intention of asking for money. When they saw the other party inviting them to work, they happily ate, drank, sang, and danced together. The Zhang family and the Wang family had people in charge of entertainment. They knew many kinds of dances and were very adaptable. If there were locals who were willing to learn, they would teach them. If there were locals who danced by themselves, they would learn and dance with them. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Even Zhang Zhong had put down his pride and pulled Zhang Wang clan to dance around the bonfire. Even the 7 children were dancing and shouting. It was hard to tell what style they were dancing in, but they even sat on the ground. The commoners originally liked to be lively. They would sing and dance when there was something to do. However, in the past, other than harvesting, farming, marriage, and funerals, it was very difficult to find a time when so many people gathered together. The total number of people in the Zhang family and the Wang family was more than 1,000. This was not the village, but the inner courtyard and the doctors. Old Man Chong was alone, while Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao's family were more than 500 people. This was under the condition that each family sent out 50 guards. The 2 people were having fun on the flat ground outside the city. It was so lively that the remaining commoners in the city could not stay still. They all dragged their families out to join in the fun. If anyone wanted to sing for everyone, there would be improvised accompaniment by the band. There were even dancers who moved to the music. The commoners did not know how good Zhang Zhong was as an official. They only knew that this new official was a good person. He was not like the previous officials who occasionally came to check on them. They ate and drank for free and did not pay attention to the commoners. They did not even sing or dance with the commoners. The second impression was that the wine in this official's family was delicious, especially the rice wine that was cooked with shredded ginger and fruits. It was sour, sweet, and cold. Together with the powder in the roasted meat, it was also good. The best impression was that this official's family members could sing and dance. They had many musical instruments. When they sang and danced, there was immediately someone who came to play with them. Where could they find such an official in the past? Good official. That official's wife was also very good. She could not even sing to her. This ability was worthy of respect. The commoners were satisfied, but the 3 old men were dumbfounded. They had lived for so many years, but this was the first time they saw the provincial governor bring his family and commoners out to play in the middle of the night instead of sleeping. What do you mean? Old Man Chong did not believe that Zhang Zhong was so free that he would mess around, especially after understanding the Zhang family's way of doing things. It seemed that every action had a deep meaning. Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao were also puzzled. This was not the style of the Zhang family. Didn't Zhang Zhong have a pattern when he became an official? First, he would find work for the commoners, then give them wages. When they worked, they would eat well. Then, he would find a way to lead the commoners to make a fortune together according to the local situation. In the process, he would also lend money to the commoners. The interest rate was very low. What was wrong with him today? He actually did not give wages, nor did he mention anything about loans. Could it be that he was sick from being cheated here? Old Man Pai drank a cup of medicine wine and also drank half a bowl of rice wine. He waved his hand and called over a person from the Zhang family's inner courtyard, who was in charge of delivering the wine. What is your family doing? If you don't sleep today, can you still get up tomorrow to build houses? Old Man Pai asked the person who walked over. In reply to Sir Bai, there is no rush to build houses. Everything will be done according to the plan. Winter is still far away, so the houses can be built slowly, the person respectfully replied. What is the plan? Old Man Yao asked from the side. The local economic development plan. Master said that every time I come, no matter what I do, as long as I am the provincial governor, I have the responsibility to let the commoners live a good life. Even if there is only one commoner, I can't ignore it, let alone more than 4,000 people. When the war is over and I withdraw, I have to at least double the income of the commoners. The person who came was still very respectful, but when he said these words, it made people feel his arrogance. Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao looked at each other. The 2 of them really didn't expect the Zhang family to do things like this. They were still busy with logistics, but they didn't give up on this place. If it was any other official who dared to say that they could double the income of the commoners in Idyll, they wouldn't believe it. But when it came from the Zhang family, they had no choice but to believe it. Waving his hand, Old Man Chong signaled for the person to go back to work. He didn't ask for details because he couldn't ask. The Zhang family and the Wang family each had their own division of labor, so the person who delivered the wine definitely couldn't know the details of the plan. If only all the officials of the Tang Empire could be like this. Zhang Zhong is a bit stupid, but he can't find fault with the way he acts as an official. He is wholeheartedly devoted to the commoners, has never been greedy for taxes, and has never accepted bribes. It's hard to find someone like him, really hard to find. Old Man Chong took a big bite of meat, swallowed it and evaluated Zhang Zhong. Old Man Pai also drank the rest of the wine in his bowl and said, "That's because his family has the ability to make money. How much can he be greedy for? Even if he wants to accept bribes, he needs someone to dare to give it to him. Giving him money once isn't even enough to let him relax a little. The government makes a lot of money doing business, so who can afford it? If he gives less, wouldn't he be scolding Zhang Zhong?" That's true, but what's the meaning of Zhang Zhong jumping around now? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo have left, so it's not good to ask Zhang Zhong directly. Old Man Yao also admitted that the Zhang family's way of doing things wasn't easy to learn. The main reason was that there were very few officials who could make money like the Zhang family, and think of ways to let the commoners earn money. Building roads required money, and if they didn't have money, they had to wait for the imperial court to give them. That would be troublesome. Since it's not easy to ask, then let's wait and see. I'll be able to figure out something. I'll write it down and let other officials learn from it. Old Man Pai drank some wine and felt comfortable after relaxing. He leaned back in his chair and narrowed his eyes as he waited for the results. Zhang Zhong was still dancing with the commoners. He didn't have the talent for dancing, so he looked awkward when he danced. Fortunately, the commoners didn't care about how others danced. Most of them were actually dancing for themselves and for others to see. When they gathered together, there was food and drink, and they were happy when it was lively. The bonfire party didn't end until dawn the next day. People were arranged to send the commoners who were tired from dancing and fell asleep in the middle of the night, as well as the commoners who drank too much and fell asleep to their homes. During this time, there were a few doctors here to take a look at them. If they were sick, they were directly sent home with medicine. They also wrote down the method of boiling the medicine. Those who couldn't read would naturally find someone to ask. The next morning, both the Zhang family and the Wang family were sleeping. They only woke up when it was about to rain in the afternoon. The cook made a large amount of pastries, and the craftsmen used local materials to make a few hundred fishing rods. They also prepared the bait. When it started to rain, Zhang Zhong opened a large umbrella and led a few dozen people to the riverside to fish. Old Man Pai and the other two also put on an extra set of clothes to fish with them. The commoners who also woke up were busy with their own family matters, while others were holding prescriptions and asking people how to boil the medicine. There were also some who wandered out to see if the new official had anything to do. When they saw the official who had danced and sang with them yesterday fishing by the riverside, they also came over to join in the fun. Zhang Zhong gave everyone fishing rods and prepared pastries at the same time. Suddenly there were a few dozen more people. After the commotion last night, the nearby strongholds on the mountain all knew about it. They all sent people to find out what the new official was going to do. It would be good if he wasn't going to force them to fight for rent. As a father, he didn't feel bad for them, but no one else did. If there was someone in the two families who could do this, other than Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, even if they were only half as good as his son and daughter-in-law, he wouldn't have to let the two children go out. He sighed and said, "Other people's children are still young, but Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are older. If they want to go out and play, they can go out and play for a few days. I can't control them. Yongcheng, don't be like this. I think Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are not bad. Before they left, they told me about the people in Idyll. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to ask them. Yongcheng, do you know what the two children are thinking?" Old Man Pai casually asked Zhang Zhong as he took the third cup of tea that Zhang Zhong poured for him. Zhang Zhong missed his son even more now. The plan didn't only write about how to carry out economic development, it also wrote about the reactions of the three old men. This was part of the development process. Otherwise, it would be really difficult to handle. Thinking of this, Zhang Zhong directly poured away the small cup of tea in his hand, which was already cold, and poured another cup of tea for each of the three old men. He didn't need Old Man Pai to continue beating around the bush. He straightforwardly said, "Sir Bai, are you here to denounce me? Say that I shouldn't have disregarded my position and played with the people like this?" Once the words were out in the open, the three old men really didn't know what to do. It was not good to say yes or no, but they couldn't say anything. Old man Chang was more straightforward. He replied, I have such thoughts not to condemn, but to ask what the deep meaning is. The Zhang family's way of doing things has always been difficult to understand. Learn from them. Yes, learn from them. Hey, actually, I don't want to do that either. Wouldn't it be better to directly recruit workers and give them wages like the local people in Suzhou? The same trick can be used back and forth, but it definitely can't be used. Just like the godson I took in Luzhou. Do I lack a son? If you don't take in the mountain people, they won't believe you. The people here are the same. Each of the strongholds only listen to orders. Unless I am ruthless enough to send troops to suppress them, otherwise, they will be the same as before after I leave. If it really comes to a point where I have to use force to solve it, it can only mean that I have failed. If the officials are incompetent, the people won't cooperate. Zhang Zhong began to complain. What he said was not wrong at all. It was all the truth. If he didn't think about the link in his son's plan and didn't scheme against the three old men, it would be perfect. The three old men didn't know that before Zhang Xiaobao left, he had dug a hole for them to jump into. When they heard Zhang Zhong's words and looked at Zhang Zhong's helpless expression, they felt the same way. Wing Zhou was not easy to govern. It took a lot of effort to collect the annual tribute. It was not easy to beg. If they didn't use some other means, they could not expect the local people to cooperate. Old man Chang was not too particular. He drank the cold tea, smacked his lips and said, What do you have in mind? Old man Pai and old man Yao listened attentively. They wanted to see what other means the Zhang family could come up with in the face of such a situation. This was different from before. When Lu Zhou was in charge, the mountain people cooperated. One reason was that Zhang Zhong did give them benefits and even took in a son. Another reason was that the local people were affected by the disaster. Now that Wing Zhou was not affected by the disaster, they couldn't think of a way to make others suffer. Zhang Zhong didn't speak this time. He seemed to be thinking, but he didn't forget to pour tea for the three old men. When the tea leaves were brewed for the 7th time, he said, My solution is simple. Since I can't use my identity as an official to gain the people's trust, then I'll become brothers with them. I'll invite them to play now and go to their stronghold tomorrow. We'll give each other things. Don't let them think that they owe you, and don't let them think that you owe them. After a period of time when you're familiar with each other, you can discuss with them how to get rich as brothers. That way they won't think that you're lying to them. To be honest, I've even prepared the rooster in yellow paper. I even asked someone to bring me a scalpel. I'm ready to drink blood and marry them. I always feel that the prestige of an official doesn't depend on how powerful you are. It depends on whether you can make the people in the place you govern treat you sincerely, and whether you can make them live a good life. Even if I'm demoted now and don't have any official position, when I return to Sanshui County, will I still lack face? Will I lose face if I'm sent to Luzhou to be a scribe? Not to mention a little face. I'm even willing to give up my life. When Zhang Zhong said what his son and daughter-in-law said to him, he suddenly felt noble. The three old men were shocked. They did not expect Zhang Zhong to say such heroic words. At the same time, they had to admit that Zhang Zhong was right. This was especially true for old man Pai. He had seen with his own eyes the scene of thousands of people sending Zhang Zhong off when he left Huayuan County. He also knew how Lu Zhou came up with the 10,000 people watch. Not to mention that Zhang Zhong still had an official position, and the Zhang family and the Wang family still had business. Even if they had nothing, as long as they were still alive, as long as they were in a place like this, all they had to do was say hello, and thousands of people would get along well. So if I don't do this, it's still wrong? Old man Pai suddenly had such a thought in his mind. Zhang Zhong continued to pour the tea. This was the 9th time, and the color of the tea was still as strong. Old man Yao was the first to react. He looked at the tea in the cup and asked, What's wrong with your tea? Why is the Westlake Longjing tea so bland that I can't drink it anymore after 8 steepings? How can your tea still be brewed? It's not that the tea given to Master Yao is not good. It's just that we've recently adopted a new tea frying technique. Moreover, the tea we picked is really good. That's why I can make 2 more steepings. The tea will be bland if I make 2 more steepings, it's just 2 more steepings. Please, Zhang Zhong said modestly. but he was very proud in his heart. Of course, his son and daughter-in-law had to keep the good stuff for their own family. It was good enough that they drank it. The tea they sent to the palace only had 7 steepings. They did not dare to send good tea. Otherwise, how would they explain if the tea was not good enough in a bad year? Old man Chang did not care about the number of steepings when he drank tea. He felt that the thick and large steeped jasmine tea was better than the current Longjing tea. He had nothing to do with 100 steepings. However, Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao understood that even if there were 2 more steepings, the price would increase by several times. This method of drinking tea was no longer to eliminate indigestion. If one really wanted to aid digestion, it was better to drink black tea. There was no need to drink green tea. Drinking tea was a kind of status. If it was better, one would be better than others. Old Man Pai looked at the small clumps of West Lake Longjing tea in the tea box beside him. He finally could not help but say, "The new technique is good. Let's try it later." Zhang Zhong took out the 3 boxes that he had prepared earlier. There was this part in the proposal, and even the person who proposed it was indicated. Sure enough, it was not bad. What his son left behind was not a proposal, but a life-saving silk pouch. It was a foresight. Even if Sir Bai did not say it, I would have someone send the new tea over later. Let's see how the new technique is. Sir Bai, do you like outdoor sports? As Zhang Zhong spoke, he pushed the 3 boxes in front of the 3 old men. Old Man Chang was the most straightforward. He held the box in his arms and was ready to send it to his master Zhang Juling. He asked, "What kind of outdoor sports are outdoor sports?" "It's sports outside the house, such as horseback riding, archery, and alpine skiing. This alpine skiing is suitable for this place. There is snow on the mountain now. When winter comes, it will be even more amazing. Use the skis to quickly slide down from the top. Feel the cold, the blood in your heart, and the heroism of flying." Zhang Zhong awkwardly used the advertising slogan written by his son. After seeing the 3 old men nodding to show that they understood, Zhang Zhong continued, "Even if this place is done according to the method of tourism, ordinary people are not willing to come here. There must be a special feature, which is alpine skiing. It is not convenient to transport things out, so it is better to lead people in. Experience alpine skiing, find a relatively fast-flowing river, and experience the singing and dancing of the local people. Then write a few fairy-tale-like stories and print them into books. Build a fairy-tale-like world here. The local people will be able to earn money, and at the same time it will promote communication with outsiders. I hope that Sir Bai, Sir Yao, and Uncle Zhang can help with this matter. In the name of the 3 of you, invite officials or rich people from Jiannan to come here and write poems. The first time is free, and there will be gifts." Zhang Zhong was not afraid that the 3 of them would not agree. He had made it clear just now. If anyone did not agree now, they would be disregarding the livelihood of the people. As expected, Old Man Pai and the other 2 nodded happily. They were also willing to do something. However, Old Man Pai felt that something was wrong, especially with the tea leaves. Why did they prepare it so well? It seemed like they had been tricked. Chapter 608. Thousands of miles of rivers and mountains, thousands of miles of distance, vast mountains and rivers at the border. Winding paths light into lines, dark mountains and dark bridges. Without seeing the galaxy, the wind is not warm, how can the moon and leaves wither? Before leaving the border, the boats of the Jinchuan branch await. In the dark night there were no stars and no moon. After the rain stopped, the cloudy day seemed colder than before. Guotu led the team to light torches and walked down the path that could easily slide into the deep stream at any time. Knowing that he had been delayed, he wanted to grow wings and fly across this distance. The only thing that satisfied him these days was the logistics camp. They always waited in front of him to arrange everything. If he wanted to rest at night, there was a special place. When it was time to eat, there was also hot food. If he didn't know that he had a mission, he would think that he was traveling in the Yaowang mountain of Yaozhou. It gave him the feeling that this was not marching. It was too comfortable. Even before walking this path, there were people who prepared ropes and connected them one by one to prevent them from falling into the stream. But the speed of the march was still slow. If this continued, they might not even see the border, let alone reach the Jinchuan in 10 days. If it was another time, they might find a reason to blame the logistics camp, saying that the food supply was not in time. But facing the logistics camp of Idyll, even the most shameless general did not dare to do so. If they all thought that the logistics camp was not doing a good job, how could they expect the logistics camp to carry them through? It was better to withdraw the army and let the logistics camp fight. If only the logistics camp could let us grow wings. Thinking of the magical logistics camp, Guotu could not help muttering to himself. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were still leading the troops and following behind the soldiers in front of them for half a day. Their progress was very relaxed, and the troops had expanded a little. The guards that Old Man Bai and Old Man Yao had sent to look for them were persuaded to stay behind. They were prepared to complete a logistics mission together. It is estimated that Guotu's team will reach a suitable place to board the ship in another 2 hours. This is the last journey in the border to see them off. I hope they can complete the mission successfully and try to let as many people come back alive. The people who transported food and cooked along the way can be paid to go home. Zhang Xiaobao looked through his binoculars at the long line of torches on the winding road ahead and gave his blessing. Wang Wan also knew that people had to die in war, whether it was actively or passively. There was no such thing as zero casualties. Many of the soldiers in the front line had not yet married and had children. Who knew how many of them would come back alive, and how many of them would be buried in a foreign land? After changing into a pair of short spiked shoes, she held a stick in her hand to prevent herself from accidentally falling down. She looked at the dark night sky and said, "The grain should have already been transported to the border. The follow-up grain is also being gathered. By the time we arrive, they should have entered Tubo's territory. It will be difficult to transport the subsequent grain. We can only wait for Guotu to send a message back to know where to send the grain." What was this? He didn't reveal the battle plan in advance and had to wait until after the border. Even now, I still don't know what his intentions are. I think it's not that he doesn't want to tell us in advance, but that he himself doesn't know how to fight this battle. Perhaps there will be changes at any time. If he tells us his plan now, what if it doesn't work when the time comes? That would be a scam. Let's follow him. As they walked, they realized that there was no danger. There was actually a railing on the side of the road. Even if they accidentally slipped, they would hit the railing first. There was also a place for a torch on the railing. If they stuck it up, they wouldn't have to worry about suddenly falling. Guotu looked at the railing carefully and said, "It's newly built. It seems that Zhang Zhong didn't have enough time to prepare it. Otherwise, he might have built railings on both sides of the road. I just don't know if they can still deliver the provisions in time after we pass the border. General, they don't even know how we are going to move. How would they know where to send the provisions? Moreover, the imperial court only asked them to gather the provisions. Once we pass the border, our army will receive the provisions. Do we still need them to continue sending the provisions?" Lu Jun didn't think that Zhang Zhong would do anything more. What he did now was already good. As long as they didn't lack provisions when they passed the border, then Zhang Zhong's mission would be considered complete. Of course, this would depend on how the imperial court arranged it. If Zhang Zhong continued to take the opportunity to provide support, then the logistics camp would have to wait at the border. At the very least, they would have to transport more provisions to the border city so that they could provide enough provisions when the army in front needed them. Guotu also knew that he was thinking too much. How could the logistics camp follow to the front? Even if they did, they wouldn't go too far. Zhang Zhong was a civil official and didn't have an army. The consequences of going deep into Tubo were obvious. It was just that the logistics camp did too well, making people reluctant to leave. Unfortunately, once they passed the border, it wasn't the logistics camp's world anymore. He raised his hand and rubbed his face that was a little uncomfortable from the cold night air. He also followed the group and walked down. Every time they walked to a place that they thought was dangerous, they would realize that not only were the railings beside them higher, there were even steps under their feet. Just like that, 15,000 people were separated into hundreds of boats and went down the river. By the time Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan arrived, the fleet in front of them was already nowhere to be seen. Now, we don't have to continue making arrangements for the matters in front. There's no way to arrange them anyway. It's good now that we don't have to worry anymore. I haven't seen what the border here looks like, so I'll go over and take a look. Wang Wan stood at the temporarily built pier by the river and waited for the boats prepared for them to arrive. Zhang Xiaobao's mind wasn't on the battlefield at this time. He was thinking about how to recoup his losses. This time we paid 120,000 strings of cash in advance. Li Longji is a black-hearted guy, so it's impossible to expect him to pay us back. I'm wondering if we can ask him to give us a piece of grassland and raise some good horses there. When the time comes, we can ship them to various places and find rich people to participate in horse gambling. It's a very interesting activity. That's a good idea. Even if it's further away and the conditions are more difficult, it's good to have a piece of land in Fengzhou, which is also Inner Mongolia. There are grasslands and deserts there, and we can raise more cattle there. If the climate isn't good, we can plant some cash crops like jujube trees or grapes. Those things will be more expensive if we ship them back. Wang Wan couldn't do anything about this. Even if Li Longji didn't do anything and gave her and Zhang Xiaobao a chance to avenge the people of Wangjiang, she would have to think of a way to take revenge on her own. However, it was different now. Li Longji was the one who suggested it first. If they couldn't pay back the money, they could use the land in exchange. She believed that Li Longji would agree very quickly. That place wasn't a good place to go now. The winds in the desert were strong, the weather in the grasslands changed frequently, and there were many wolves in the wild. The population was pitifully small and they were all nomads. Ordinary people wouldn't go even if you gave them money. If they asked for a piece of land there, wouldn't Li Longji go crazy with joy? Thinking of this, Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Do we need to send someone back to tell Grandpa Bai and the others? We can only be at ease after we get the land." "Don't say it, we definitely can't say it. If we say it now, with those shrewd people in the imperial court, and Li Longji this emperor who is not stupid, they will definitely tell us a lot of difficulties. They will also talk about how good Feng province is and make us take out new things to exchange. In the end, the land they give us won't be big. Don't we have an account of the money spent this time? When it's over, we'll send the account book to Grandpa Bai. He'll naturally know what to do. According to my analysis, the biggest possibility is that they'll come and ask us what we want. We can't count on money. When the time comes, it'll be easy to handle." Zhang Xiaobao didn't want to be so proactive. At this time, it wasn't as simple as a confrontation with a local official. None of the people in the imperial court were easy to deal with. It wasn't just a matter of economics anymore. It involved political exchanges. Political exchanges required wisdom. Unless there was a real falling out, whoever exposed their intentions first would be unlucky. The so-called exchange was carried out when both parties thought that they had taken advantage of the other party and made a compromise. The simplest explanation was that the other party had achieved their goals, but they were still pretending to be innocent after taking advantage of the other party. If the bear understood politics, it would want to eat honey in the monkey's territory, but let the monkey bring it up himself. It would also say that there were too many bees and that it needed to be compensated. The moment it ate the sweet honey, it would make the monkey feel that it had gained an advantage. Wang Wan nodded to show that she understood. She was even more puzzled. "Then what do you say?" "Say that you want all the management rights of the Tea-horse path," Zhang Xiaobao replied. "Impossible, unless you think that the people in the imperial court are all fools." Wang Wan didn't have any hope in this. Zhang Xiaobao looked upstream and said, "I also know that it's impossible. In psychology, this is called an inch when given an inch. Sometimes it's better to use this method. In layman's terms, it can be said that we're asking for sky-high prices and waiting for them to sit on the ground and pay us back. As long as they refuse, we'll ask for a good place. The area has to be large. If it's not a good place, then the area has to be larger. If it's a place that's too difficult, then it's also fine. However, we need to waive 10 years of taxes and rent. Where do you think that guy Li Longji will arrange for the place?" "He'll arrange for it to be in Inner Mongolia or the northeast. Lingnan definitely won't let us go." "Then how can you guarantee that you'll get the grassland?" Wang Wan immediately understood. Even if it was her, she would also arrange for it. Wasn't the Zhang family very powerful? Then let's see how powerful they are. If you want the land, then I'll give it to you. In any case, no one is willing to go to a bad place. If I give it to you, then I'll make it difficult for you. Zhang Xiaobao also thought the same. In fact, it wasn't referring to Li Longji. Many people wanted to see the Zhang family make a fool of themselves in business. This was a common flaw in human nature. It wasn't that they had to do anything to the Zhang family, but they subconsciously wanted to suppress the Zhang family. Otherwise, wouldn't the Zhang family become a legend? Wouldn't it be difficult for you? After hearing Wang Wan's question, Zhang Xiaobao said, "When it's about time, I'll give others instructions. For example, I'll vigorously develop hot pot and say that this method is very good in the Northeast. At the same time, I'll use glass to make greenhouses to increase the output of vegetables in the off-season. I'll buy a lot of furs and use them to make beautiful winter warm clothes for our clothing store. I'll build ships at the estuary of the Yellow River and go to Liaodong Bay to hire local fishermen to understand the marine environment there. I'll also send people to open a new restaurant between the clouds and the water there. What do you think I'm going to do? What else can you do? Of course, you're going to wait until there's land there to develop. You're too evil, Xiaobao. I know you're doing this on purpose. You're letting people watch, but you don't want the land there. The only place left is Inner Mongolia. Are you trying to deceive us?" Wang Wan knew Zhang Xiaobao's character. Since he wanted to get a piece of land in Inner Mongolia, he would definitely fill in the details and lead others step by step to get the land there. Although there were times when he failed, it also depended on whether Zhang Xiaobao was persistent. If he insisted, he would find a way to achieve his goal. Zhang Xiaobao had been thinking about this matter along the way. In an era of power, unless one was prepared to be the emperor and overthrow the original regime, it was impossible to face it head-on. However, it was not so easy to be the emperor, especially for someone like himself. After becoming the emperor, he would definitely do his best to do everything well. That would be exhausting. More importantly, it was very difficult to overthrow the current regime. Even if one spent more than a decade to prepare, they would first have to go to a remote place to be the regional historian. Otherwise, they would not be able to get soldiers and would have to learn from Lushan. After that, they would have to launch a coup, and the consequences would be even more severe than the Lushan rebellion. They would weaken the Great Tang's strength and give the surrounding countries a chance to see whether they would settle their internal affairs first or the other countries would make a move first. Even if they won in the end, they would be old. They might be in their 40s or 50s, and they would not be able to enjoy anything. In terms of enjoyment, it would be the excitement of war. However, there was no regional historian now. It was better to play games and enjoy life. Sometimes it was more comfortable to influence an era in the dark than to stand on the stage personally. What are you thinking about? Get on the boat. The boat is here. Wang Wan waited until the boat arrived. Zhang Xiaobao still had a contemplative look on his face. She nudged him and stepped forward. Nothing much. I'll immediately send a letter back. Some things have to be planned in advance. Write a letter to Grandpa Bai and ask him to help find people who are not afraid of the cold while skiing in the mountains. At the same time, help train the guards who will be joining my family to resist the cold. At the same time, get the people in charge of business in my family to purchase aged black tea. Get the cloth merchants in the capital to send silk here. Get Grandpa Yao to take the lead and get in touch with the local officials close to the tea horse path. Hire a team that frequently walks the tea horse path at a high price. That's all. I'll add more when I think of something in the future. Zhang Xiaobao came back to his senses and immediately got on the boat to write the letter. Even if the Jiangwang clan didn't wear the title of nobility, she still looked dignified and amiable, which made the 3 wives of the clan leader feel very comfortable. Especially the 7 little ones' cute appearance, they immediately conquered everyone. Even the clan leader, who accompanied them, wanted to snatch one back and raise it himself. It would be even better if he could snatch 2. The few of them talked and laughed as they entered the hall in the stronghold. This was the center of the entire stronghold. It was made of stone, and the walls outside the stronghold were built with a mixture of stone and wood. The clan leader, Chong Hu, was very enthusiastic. He didn't care if it was time for dinner. As soon as they arrived, he began to prepare. The cows used for farming were killed, the sheep were killed, and all kinds of animals hunted in the mountains were killed. There was no need for other methods. In fact, they didn't have many cooking methods. They just took out the meat and roasted it. It was lively and convenient at the same time. Old Man Pai and the other two saw that the cows were killed and felt distressed. They glanced at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong seemed to be indifferent. It was as if the cows were no different from pigs. While roasting the meat, the people in the stronghold danced and sang with Zhang Zhong and the Wang clan. Wang Wan's father finally played a role at this time. Although he usually didn't care about anything, he had a high tolerance for alcohol. He was the kind of person who drank until the cup was empty. He helped Zhang Zhong drink a lot of alcohol. Zhang Zhong didn't drink much usually. He was always drunk, so he usually drank some medicinal wine and wine. Even if he was socializing with others, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't allow him to drink too much. The medicine and soup for hangovers were all prepared. Before coming this time, Zhang Zhong and the Wang clan had prepared. They specifically drank the diuretic medicine prescribed by the doctor. At the same time, they also made a medicine that simulated the absorption of alcohol into the blood. This allowed the alcohol to be excreted through the urine as much as possible. The people in the inner courtyard of Zhangzhong and the Wang clan were specially used to compete with others in drinking. They tried to eat as little as possible. That would fill their stomachs and make it difficult for the alcohol to be excreted. After mixing with food, more alcohol would enter the bloodstream. Chief Chong, who drank a little too much. When he wasn't drunk, he also spoke a lot. He hugged Zhang Zhong, who was also full of smiles, and said, "Brother Zhang, good official. I've never seen an official like you, especially one from your family. You can sing and dance. Don't worry, I'll pay the rent this year and also the tribute. Even if the other strongholds don't take it, I'll gather enough money for you to send to the capital. Then I'll have to thank Brother Chong whose wine is also good. Come, let's drink." Zhang Zhong didn't care about the rent or the tribute. He just didn't want to send the wine to the capital. Who could do anything to him? This place wasn't like Shuzhou, where the annual rent was not high and the tribute was high. The rent from Idyll was paid by the province. If he refused to pay the tribute, who would dare to impeach him? The rent was not even enough to cover the salaries of the two families. Wang Wan's father, who had a mission, also came over. He threw away the cup in his hand and said under the puzzled gazes of others, "It's not enough. Change bowls and drink." Chong, who also knew who this was. He was a rank 3 official. Seeing that the official was so bold, he also changed bowls. The other people who were drinking also changed their cups. Only Old Man Pai and the other two didn't move. They still couldn't tell what was good about the wine. Seeing Zhang Zhong praise it without blushing, the 3 old men were really helpless. If the wine was good, then what was the wine made by the Zhang family? When did the people who opened the restaurant learn to lie with their eyes wide open? As they drank, a problem appeared. The meat was mostly eaten by the people in the stronghold. The people of the Zhang family and the Wang family rarely touched it, but they drank a lot of wine. How much wine could there be in a small stronghold? Wine was made with grain. After Zhang Zhong drank another bowl of wine, the people in the stronghold found Chong, who and whispered that there was no wine left. This time Chong, who was dumbfounded. He was drinking to his heart's content, but the wine was gone. This was embarrassing. Could he tell the guests to stop drinking and drink all the wine? Just as Chong, who was in a dilemma, Wang Wan's father spoke. He said to Zhang Zhong, "In-law, I remember that we also brought a lot of wine when we came. Don't drink the same kind all the time. Let's change." Yes, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Indeed, Brother Chong, why don't you try the wine I brought? Zhang Zhong had been waiting for this opportunity. He was really afraid that they wouldn't be able to finish the wine in the stronghold, so he used a negotiating tone when he asked. After all, it wasn't good to take the wine when someone was treating you to a meal. Chong, who couldn't care less about anything else. All the wine in the stronghold had been drunk. Since Zhang Zhong brought the wine over, he might as well drink it. He happily agreed and ordered someone to follow him to get more wine. When the wine was changed, the 3 old men who had been drinking quietly poured out the wine in their cups. They held their cups in their hands and waited for someone to pour the wine brought by Zhang Zhong. Only after drinking the wine made by the Zhang family did they know what wine was. They thought that Zhang Zhong wouldn't send bad wine to the stronghold. Besides, the Zhang family didn't have any bad wine either. As soon as the people in the stronghold drank the new wine, they all became excited. Chang Hu was also confused, but he understood. When he heard Zhang Zhong's words, he had an idea and said, "Brother Zhang, there are many fruits here. And the Haitian you mentioned, is it this thing?" Seeing the residue left in the wine for some reason, Chang Hu wandered to the side of the wall and found several black fruits the size of soybeans. He brought them to Zhang Zhong. "Yes, this is it. It can also cure diseases. Are there many fruits here?" Zhang Zhong took one, threw it into his mouth and swallowed it. "Many, many, many, the whole mountain is full of them. No one eats them and people don't want them when you ship them to the outside. There is no need to be afraid of few people. Everyone, adults and children, will do it. Since you have nothing to do, you can take out and sell the good wine and let others taste the wine here." Chang Hu was simple and didn't know what Zhang Zhong was thinking. He felt that he had a good relationship with Zhang Zhong, so he wanted to help. Old Man Yao and the other two listened at the side. At this time they finally knew what Zhang Zhong wanted to do. Instead of ordering others to do something, it was better to let others find it themselves. This move was really silent. No wonder he insisted on holding a banquet and a ball at the foot of the mountain. It turned out that he wanted to drink the wine of others and take out his wine to seduce others. Good ability, they couldn't help but be impressed. If all the local officials can be like this, why worry that the people of Tang can't live a good life? Yongcheng is usually listless and afraid of his wife, but now he is quite pleasing to the eye. Old Man Chong whispered to Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao. He felt that the wine in his mouth tasted better than before. Good wine. Many of the wild fruits here in the mountain have turned into wine, which is valuable. The first method is to build a ski resort. The second method is to make wine. Let's see what other methods there are. Old Man Yao was also in a good mood. Being able to see the local people living a good life was sweeter than eating honey. Old Man Pai was also very emotional. Seeking merit, not publicity. The Zhang family's way of doing things is still so unpredictable. Perhaps in the future, the people here will understand Zhang Zhong's good intentions. Zhang Zhong had already started to discuss cooperation with Chang Hu. Zhang Zhong began to propose to help the stronghold make wine and sell it for free. Chang Hu didn't agree. He wanted to help Zhang Zhong pick fruits for free. As for selling them or not, it didn't matter. Neither of them gave in. In the end, Wang Wan's father came up with an idea so that neither side would lose out. This year they would let people pick fruits and the Zhang family would buy them to make wine. They would make wine in the city and let the people in the stronghold learn. Next year, Zhang Zhong would no longer buy fruits. He would buy wine, do the second fermentation himself, and sell it in the restaurant. This way no one would lose out and no one would take advantage of the other. Zhang Zhong, who was in a daze, and Chang Hu, who was in a daze, agreed happily. The matter was settled in this way. After that it was time to drink and celebrate. Zhang Zhong also sent a lot of spices to the stronghold to test on the barbecued meat. The taste was really good. The Zhang family will lose out this time. The wine will be sold immediately after the fruits are put away. The Zhang family needs to put in money first to give the locals a chance to make money in advance. The first fermentation will take at least 3 months to make wine, and the second fermentation will also take about 5 months to make wine. When did the Zhang family pick fruits and make wine in Suzhou with the locals? There don't seem to be many wild fruits there, and there's not enough time. As Old Man Pai spoke, he suddenly thought of this very important question. Old Man Chong explained, "Those are Luzhou's fruits. They've been there for 2 years. Of course the taste is good. It's impossible to achieve this taste in 8 months. If the taste is not good enough, Chang Hu will think it's not easy to sell. How can he agree? I think it will take at least 2 years for the Zhang family to turn the fruits in Izhou into wine before they can make money. What's this called? Yes, holding the goods. The Zhang family usually likes to use the quasi-cash flow method when doing business. That is, they try to transfer as much money as possible. When doing business, they always put in a small part of their money and let the local merchants cooperate. If it weren't for the sake of the local people, they wouldn't be willing to put money here. That's right. I heard Xiao Bao and Cuckoo occasionally mention that there's a method called cash flow to make money. Something like borrowing, splitting, and mortgaging should be more profitable. However, Cuckoo doesn't seem to agree, and Xiaobao also said so. I really don't know what kind of method it is. Why don't they use it? Old Man Pai also knew some things. He didn't know that this kind of business model would cause financial turmoil, especially when Zhang Xiaobao was operating it. In this era, if Zhang Xiaobao wanted to, he could mess up the entire financial system of Tang. The financial system was already unstable, especially when it came to currency exchange. Chang, who didn't know what this brother of his planned, and he didn't know the specific situation of the Zhang family. He didn't even know where Shuzhou was. He only knew that this official was good, and Zhang Zhong's little guys were fun to play with. It was a pity that he couldn't snatch them. Looking at the 7 little guys and then looking at his own children, the difference was like heaven and earth. Even if they changed into the same beautiful clothes, it still wouldn't work. Brother Zhang, how did you raise your children? I wish I could take a pair of them and put them at home. They sit there like little adults. When other people go over to talk to them, they always welcome them with a smile. My family's children are far worse. They are not big, but their tempers are not small. Chang Hu pulled Zhang Zhong and asked with jealousy. Zhang Zhong thought to himself, of course. Look at who's teaching them. You haven't seen Xiaobao and Cuckoo. Otherwise, wouldn't you be jealous to death? How can the methods of immortals be compared to mortals? Sigh. He didn't know if his son and daughter-in-law had suffered along the way. When this matter was over, he would really have to become an official in Luoyang or Beijing. He didn't want his 2 children to run around and suffer along with him. Sighing softly, Zhang Zhong put on a smile and said, Brother Chang Hu, this isn't easy. Send your children to my place and see if they can play with Xiaobei and the others. It'll be fine if they stay with me for a while. It's not easy to control my 2 children. If I'm not careful, they'll run away. They won't listen to me no matter how I beat them. If I leave them with you, won't they cause trouble for you? Chang Hu was really tempted. Not to mention whether he could learn to be as sensible as the other children. Even the food and drink at the foot of the mountain was better than on the mountain. However, he heard that when Zhang Zhong came, the 7 children had their own big houses, the kind with wheels below, and there were specialized doctors to take care of them. If he really sent them down, they wouldn't have to worry about getting sick. They could eat well and play well. They could even learn how to read and write with other children. Look at other children. They could actually use a branch to write their names on the ground. If they learned it, when they met people from other strongholds in the future, they could squat there and write their names. That would be so embarrassing. Now, he could only be envious of other children. When Zhang Zhong saw that Chang Hu's words had some meaning, he immediately said, Don't worry. Children run around looking for things to play with. I have a lot of toys. As long as there are children to play with, they'll be safe. This matter is settled. We'll take them back at night. The more the merrier. This time, Chang Hu didn't insist and happily agreed. Suddenly, he thought of something and said, Brother Zhang, how about this? I'll look for people from other strongholds to pick fruits together so that your family can brew more wine. Really? Then Brother Chang, who has helped me a lot. Drink. Zhang Zhong was completely relieved. He raised the bowl and drank it all. Chapter 6:10. Fruits are fragrant in autumn, and people are busy picking them in Idyll. Rich people look forward to skiing, and craftsmen work hard to burn vats. Zhang Zhong, who was drunk, refused Chang Hu's invitation to stay before nightfall. He took Chang Hu's son and daughter with him and left the stronghold to prepare for the relevant matters. The next morning, Chang Hu, who had sobered up, remembered what he had said the day before. He quickly gathered the adults and children in the stronghold to pick ripe fruits in order to help Zhang Zhong's family make wine. Zhang Zhong found the 3 old men to discuss sending invitations to various hedonistic sons and daughters of wealthy families to come here and play. He also found nearby craftsmen to make vats for fermenting fruits. He also posted notices in the city, asking the people in the city to help the craftsmen as much as possible so that they could learn the craft and make vats for themselves in the future. With Chang Hu taking the lead, the people in his stronghold began to work hard. With such a big commotion, it was difficult not to alert others. Chang Hu, who was thinking about how to get the other strongholds to help him pick the fruits, did not have to take the initiative to look for others before they all came to him. When the people in the nearby strongholds found out that wild fruits could be exchanged for money, and that the officials who treated them to food, drinks, and dancing would make a fortune, they happily joined in. 3 days later, piles of fruits were delivered to the prefectural city of Wing Prefecture. Zhang Zhong's family had also hurriedly built a temporary residence. A large part of the adobe city wall had been dug up, and they hadn't had time to rebuild it yet. They had to wait until the fruits were almost harvested and the autumn harvest was over before they found the local people to do it. After another day, the people that Zhang Zhong had sent out in advance returned with carts of daily necessities. They began to pay the local people for the fruits. This was because the local people were used to bartering. When Zhang Zhong paid for the fruits on the first day, Chang Hu was worried. He didn't know how to go out and use the money to buy things. He was afraid that people would deliberately ask them for more money. He told Zhang Zhong that it was better to use things to barter. They all knew how much their things were worth and weren't afraid of being cheated. Zhang Zhong was speechless. How could they not be cheated when using things to barter? When Zhang Zhong heard Chang Hu say that they had a fixed person to exchange with, he understood that they were being controlled. Seeing Chang Hu's awkward expression, he could only send someone to buy something. As a result, the largest and most comprehensive store in Wing Prefecture City was created. It was responsible for trading with the locals and purchasing all kinds of furs and medicinal materials at 80% of the price of goods sold outside. The remaining 20% was included in the transportation fee. When the people in the nearby villages learned about the market situation outside and found out the price of the items they had exchanged, they all clamored to go out and kill the people in the shop who had exchanged with them. A bear skin could be sold for 15 strings of coins, and the better ones could even be sold for 20 strings of coins. The salt they bought with that much money was enough to feed a village of 100 people for 2 years, and there was still leftover salted meat. In the past, they could only exchange for a scoop of salt which they thought was cheap. If they ate sparingly, it could feed the people in the village for more than a month. How could Zhang Zhong let them go out and cause trouble? He persuaded them in every way possible and promised that the store in the city would continue to provide all kinds of daily necessities in the future. With this thought in mind, Gong Shi turned around and looked at the strongest person in the 20 villages walking behind him. He looked at the sky and saw that it was almost dark. He thought that there was a village not far from here. Perhaps they could go there to have a good rest, or they could continue on their journey and live in the city. Hurry up, hurry up. We don't have to sleep outside today. Hurry up. Gong Shi shouted at the people in the village and began to speed up. He lowered his head and looked at his feet as he moved forward. The people in Little Bear Village also knew that this was a mission. They had never done this before. When faced with the unknown, they felt a bit of worry in their hearts, but also a bit of excitement and expectation. They were prepared to do a good job outside, and when they came back, they would become heroes of the village. Therefore, they who had already been on the road for more than 10 days, didn't care about the fatigue of their bodies at all. They followed behind their future chief, hoping to have a good sleep in the city and eat a full meal so that they could save up enough strength to work. When it was almost night time, the sky became overcast. Those familiar with the weather knew that there would not be rain. At midnight they might be able to see the stars, so they didn't have to worry about being soaked through like they had been a few days ago. Just as the group of people picked up their pace and jogged forward, many dots of light suddenly appeared in front of them. They swayed and illuminated the people nearby. There were actually many people holding torches and swaying in that direction. It was unknown what they were doing. With curiosity in his heart, Gong Shi couldn't help but stop and look in front of him in a daze. The people behind him also stopped and pondered. The people in front of them didn't rest early at night, but instead ran up the mountain to do something. After thinking for a while, Gong Shi, who still couldn't figure it out, began to slowly move forward. When he got closer, he let out a sigh of relief. He recognized the people in front of him. They were the people from the mountain village who couldn't make it in time to stay for the night. Not only were there adults, but there were also children climbing up and down. When he discovered the other side also noticed that there were people moving around. Because they didn't light torches, the other side couldn't clearly see who they were. Immediately, A group of people gathered together and shouted at them in a chaotic manner. Is Chang Mountain here? It's me, Gong Shi of Little Bear Village. Gong Shi didn't want to misunderstand and let the other side shoot a bunch of arrows. He hurriedly shouted at the top of his lungs, his voice echoing in the mountains. After shouting, Gong Shi signaled the people behind him to not move. He walked forward alone. When they were within the range of the torch, the people on the other side finally relaxed their vigilance. A person holding a bow walked out from the crowd and came in front of Gong Shi. He laughed and said, "Brother Gong Shi, sure too, why did you come here? You must be tired. Come eat some fruit. Later, come to my place and drink some wine. Good wine, the new official surnamed Zhang wants to sell it. Yesterday when I was picking fruit I caught a deer. I gave half of it to the official surnamed Zhang, but the other half hasn't been eaten yet. Just in time, I'll let you taste it. The new seasoning is different from before." Chang Mountain was very enthusiastic. His enthusiasm made Gong Shi feel as if he didn't know Chang Mountain. Generally speaking, if a deer was caught, it would be taken outside to exchange. Whether it was deer skin or deer meat, the exchange was more than usual. If a deer was caught alive, it would be even more amazing. How could he be willing to eat it? What puzzled Gong Shi the most was what kind of official had come and even gave him half of one. Could it be that this new official was so powerful that he could control the people here? With doubts in his heart, Gong Shi first waved his hand to the people behind him and asked the people in the stronghold to come over. He asked Chang Mountain puzzledly, "What's the new official? How many people did he bring?" "A big official, the most senior official. The whole Wing prefecture has to listen to him. Even that Fong guy has to listen to him when he sees him. He has a lot of people, almost 2,000. The city can't accommodate all of them, so he tore down the city wall and built houses there. When the houses are built, people can live in them. When it gets cold, they have to rebuild them." Chang Mountain passed a fruit in his hand to Gong Shi and took a bite. He said while chewing. After hearing this, a trace of worry appeared between Gong Shi's eyebrows. He looked at the people in the stronghold who were picking wild fruits and said sympathetically, "Is it because he has a lot of subordinates? You can't beat them, so he forced you to take a lot of things. You have nothing to eat, so you go to the mountain to pick wild fruits to eat? I don't know if they will also go to my little bear village to rob. If they do, I will fight with them." "Fight!" The people in Little Bear Village also shouted hot-bloodedly. "Ha ha ha!" Chang Mountain spat out all the fruits in his mouth that he hadn't swallowed. He pointed at Gong Shi and laughed loudly. His other hand was still covering his stomach. It looked really funny. Even the people behind him also laughed. Gong Shi didn't find it funny at all. His face turned red from the laughter. At this moment, a 7-year-old child in the mountain village fished out a piece of candy from a small pouch hanging on his body. He handed it to Gong Shi and said, "This is the first time I've seen you. Uncle Gong, here's some candy for you." The new official is called Zhang Zhong, and his youngest child is called Xiaobei. Xiaobei is very fun, and there's also a lot of candy. This is called malt candy, and it tastes like wheat when you put it in your mouth. Zhang Zhong is a good official, so I gave him the deerskin that I got from my family to make a cushion for him. I brought someone to deliver it to him, and his family even let me eat a meal called hot pot with this big prawn. The child was very excited as he spoke and gestured with his hands. Gong Shi was even more confused. He looked at the candy that the child from Chang Mountain's family handed over. He wanted to refuse, but he also wanted to understand. He could only take it in his hand. He carefully squeezed it and found that there was a layer of wrapping on the outside. He peeled off the wrapping and found that there was a translucent thing inside. There was also a layer of glutinous rice paper on the outside. He knew that this thin layer of paper could be eaten, but it was only wrapped on the outside of something delicious. He couldn't hold back the doubt in his heart, and under the child's expectant gaze, he threw the candy into his mouth. A sweet, honey-like taste instantly filled his mouth. "Uncle Gong, is it delicious? I still have a few pieces." The child was looking forward to sharing the candy with others. Gong Shi suddenly had a feeling of recalling the candy he ate several times when he was a child. He was so happy. This candy was obviously better than the ones he ate when he was a child. He wanted to take it out and put it back into the child's mouth, but he felt that it was inappropriate. He could only hold back the idea and ask, "Is this candy very expensive?" "I don't know." One of Xiaobei's sworn brothers named Young Man said that the candy was made by himself. "You can't buy it or exchange it. I know that Xiaobei's house is very beautiful. There are bright lights inside. Unfortunately, I can't get in. There are 3 floors, and the blanket inside is very smooth." The child didn't know the value of the candy. He only knew that it was delicious. He also knew that Xiaobei's house was beautiful. The courtyard where the house was placed was built first. The ground inside was very smooth stone, which could reflect people's shadows. Gongshi found that the child couldn't understand it for a while. He had to look at Chang Mountain and wait for him to explain. Chang Mountain's life was better recently. He exchanged a lot of things that he usually needed with fruits, including beautiful porcelain bowls. He was in a good mood. When he saw Gongshi looking at him, he laughed and told Gongshi what happened in the past few days. From Zhangzhong bringing people here to eating, drinking, and playing outside the city, and then to collecting fruits to make wine, to opening a new shop, and to being cheated when he exchanged things before. The more Gongshi and the others listened, the more surprised they were. The more they listened, the more they didn't dare to imagine. How could there be such a good official? The one surnamed Fang had never found people to drink, sing, and dance with, let alone exchange things for the wild fruits that no one wanted. Every year, when it was almost winter, the Fang guy would go to the villages one by one and ask the people in the villages to pay the rent and also hand over the land as tribute. If it wasn't for his pitiful appearance, they wouldn't have given him anything at all. The land he was given did not produce much at all. It was the worst land. The new official was so good. He didn't mention the rent and tribute, but collected the fruits as soon as he came. He even sent the good things outside to open a shop in the city. What was his plan? Sure too, since the fruits can be exchanged, we don't need to look for work outside anymore. The people outside are not good. They always bully us. Let the people in the village pick the fruits and send them here. One of the people in Little Bear Village was smarter. He immediately thought of the key point of the problem and came to Gongshi's side to propose. Gongshi was no fool. How could he not think of this? But he had other ideas, so he asked, "Then can we also exchange things for tribute?" "Yes. This year Gaoshan village is prepared to pay more tribute. The rest will be left for the official surnamed Zhang." Chang, whose village, also said that even if the other villages don't pay, they will take care of everything. Chang Shan said generously, "So the official surname Zhang is the same as the official surnamed Fang. He wants to use us and is afraid that we won't pay the tribute. He's just giving us benefits first." Gongshi analyzed. "You idiot, do you really think the official surname Zhang is the same as the official surnamed Fang? The official surname Zhang isn't afraid of not paying. Yesterday, when I brought people to deliver the fruits, the official surname Zhang was standing in front of the shop and watching. It just so happened that the imperial court sent a fast horse to deliver the imperial edict. An imperial edict, something written by the emperor. Guess what? If it were any other official, they would have set up an incense table and brought their family to kowtow, but the official surname Zhang didn't care at all. He took it, opened it, and threw it to the servant behind him. The person who delivered the imperial edict even had a smile on his face. He didn't dare to say anything disrespectful to the emperor. How could he be afraid of not paying the tribute? Also, after delivering the fruits, I sent people to ask around. Guess what? This time he wasn't the only official who came. There were several 3rd and 4th rank officials. Later, I heard that the imperial edict wrote that the old man and his family was going to be an official. They were all 2nd rank officials. His mother was also a 2nd rank official. What kind of imperial title is that? Even a kid called Xiao Bao, who I've never seen before, is a 6th rank official. The people I sent heard from the 3 old men that the emperor felt that the road was too far, so he didn't give them the money or the official robes. He only sent people to bring a few goldfish bags and told them to prepare everything else themselves. Chang Shan pretended to be mysterious as he talked about this gossip. The crowd also listened mysteriously. After one of the people in Little Bear Stronghold heard this, he said, "Is it because the emperor doesn't treat his family well? He didn't even give them a reward. I think you're also an idiot. Changshan looked at this person and continued, this means that the emperor doesn't treat his family well. How could he give them a bad title? How could he treat the imperial edict like that? I saw it clearly when he threw it to others. It was like throwing a rag. Listen to me, you don't have to pay the rent this year. If you do, you'll just be giving the official surname Zhang his salary. He may not be used to eating and doesn't care about that bit of food. However, you can only give more, not less. Don't use the tribute to threaten him. Otherwise, before he gets angry, the strongholds on my side won't agree. That's right, we'll definitely pay. We don't have much food, but we have a lot of tribute. It's useless to keep it in our hands, so it's better to give it to him. If it's really like you said, he really doesn't care whether or not he can send tribute to the capital. The emperor also didn't give him a title, so it's even. But if we don't give it to him, he'll be unhappy and think we don't treat him as a brother. Gongshi finally understood. As for whether or not Changshan was lying to him, he would know when he went down. At the thought of going down, Gongshi had an idea and said to Changshan, how about this? Let me take some of the fruit you're picking now. Each of you will carry a basket and see if we can trade. Oh, we have to wait until tomorrow. Then we'll pick the fruit together first and go tomorrow. There's no need. There are people at night too. I can deliver it once in the middle of the night and again before dawn. I'll give each of you a basket. Go and take a look. This shop is open 24 hours a day. There's another place called the hospital. It's also open 24 hours a day. When you go down, go to the hospital first and let the doctor take your pulse. If you're sick, he'll make you medicine. It's not expensive. He said it's included in the 20% profit when you trade for fur and other things. Changshan explained the situation in the city to Gongshi and the others. At the same time, he signaled the people in the stronghold to give each of them a basket of wild fruit. With hope for a better life, Gongshi led the others to thank Changshan and went down the mountain. After walking for a long time, the originally tired people felt that they were full of energy again. After walking for more than an hour, they finally arrived at the foot of the mountain. From afar, they could see the prefectural city in front of them, and could hear the sounds of singing and musical instruments coming from the brightly lit area outside the prefectural city. Occasionally, the wind would blow over and they could smell the aroma of meat and wine. After walking for a long time, they couldn't help but inhale. The group couldn't help but speed up, wanting to see what was going on down there. When they got closer, Gongshi and the others finally heard a toast song that they had never heard before. However, it was indeed a song from their side. They didn't know what kind of musical instruments were used, but it was very well coordinated. When they heard it, they had the urge to dance. When they could see people's faces with the help of the light, Gongshi found another person he knew. This person was squatting next to the person using the musical instrument. It seemed that he wanted to learn. That person also felt that someone was looking at him. When he turned his head and saw that it was Gongshi, he immediately stood up and approached him. Sure too, you also heard the news and came here. Just in time. You've been rushing all the way here. Drink a cup of wine first. This wine is very good. 1 cup will make you feel dizzy. Eat 2 roasted fish. Changhu, why didn't you stay in the stronghold and come down here at night? Gongshi put down the basket full of wild fruits, rubbed his shoulders and looked around curiously. I came down today to see my 2 children. After they eat dinner and go to sleep, I'll come out and join in the fun. Changhu waved his hand vigorously at the person in charge of delivering the wine. Gongshi didn't understand why Changhu's 2 children wanted to come down the mountain to see. His eyes swept over the people dancing and singing in front of him, then looked at the people around them. He asked Changhu, didn't you say that there was an official surname Zhang here? Where is he? He didn't come out today. Do you want him to accompany you all the time? That's an official. He has official business to do. In the future I'll be fine here. Except for the rain, every night outside the city is like this. You can sing and dance as you want. However, it is said that after the new year, you have to prepare your own wine and food. Changhu took the wine that someone brought and handed it to Gongshi. He sighed with emotion about the situation here. After getting used to being together, the pandas were still very cute. Wang Wan immediately carried out her plan, leaving the people in the inner courtyard to follow Zhang Xiaobao's plan. She and Zhang Xiaobao led the 56 members of the Zero Squad, Li Sun's 200 bodyguards, and Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao's 100 people. A total of 358 people went to the nearby mountains to play. This place is good. It's rich in resources and all kinds of minerals. It's a pity that we can't develop it right now. We can only wait until we have the conditions in the future. It's said that there's a lot of limestone here, which can be used to make cement. There's also a lot of medicinal herbs. Since there aren't so many people picking them, let's gather more and bring them back to the research institute. Wang Wan changed the environment and didn't think about the war in front of her. She happily talked to Zhang Xiaobao as they walked on the road. Zhang Xiaobao was still thinking of other plans. He couldn't let this trip go to waste. No matter what, he had to obtain enough benefits to scare Li Longji. Otherwise, he would send them to the border for no reason in the future. Most people wouldn't be able to adapt to the climate here. Thinking about the various frontier poems written by Gao Shi in the future, he knew that once they left Pengzhou, they would only be waiting to suffer. Hearing Wang Wan's words, he said absent-mindedly, "Yes, there are still a lot of things that we have to think of ways to make use of. For example, the bamboo and coal here. If we don't use them properly, it would be a waste for us to come so far. I'm talking about medicinal herbs. What coal and bamboo? I remember that this is the most suitable place to produce medicinal herbs, especially the temperature and humidity. Why don't we set up a medicinal herb plantation here and contribute to opening welfare hospitals everywhere in the future?" Wang Wan bent down and grabbed a handful of grass from the mountain road. She looked at it in her hand, as if it was medicinal herbs that were everywhere. "Then let's try to plant one. Even if it doesn't succeed, we can let people know that there is such a method. Nowadays, people just go and pick them directly. As the tools become more and more advanced, there are no good medicinal herbs left. Now, why do I feel that Guotu might not be able to win? Isn't it a little too little to send 15,000 people? I remember that a few years ago, Tubo sent 100,000 or 100,000 soldiers. Jinchuan is such an important place. Who wouldn't arrange more soldiers here?" Zhang Xiaobao always had a premonition that Guotu would easily rush over and fail to escape back. If he could escape back, it would be fine. If he went with 15,000 people and returned with only a few hundred people, not only would the people of Wangjiang not be able to report their worries, but many people would also die. That would be very sad. Because Wang Wan had cooperated with the people here, she also knew that Jinchuan was not a place to fight. However, if it was her, she felt that there should be hope. The art of war was to use one's strength to overcome the enemy's weakness. As long as the quality of the soldiers was high enough and the logistics were sufficient, she was confident that she could divert the enemy and find a chance to win if she was the commander. If she was given 10,000 bodyguards like Li Sun, equipped with horses, she would be the general and Zhang Xiaobao would be in charge of logistics. She would dare to fight her way to the capital of Tubo. If she was given the people from the Zero Protection Team, she would be able to sweep through all the surrounding countries. It would not be a problem even if she were to fight her way to Arabia. Of course, the premise was that Zhang Xiaobao would organize the logistics for her. She really did not feel at ease with other people. As the two of them talked, the team started. The 56 people of the protection team guarded Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and did not move. The rest of the people started to practice various tactics according to the previous method. Li Sun's team had already adapted, but Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao's people were much worse. They were not used to such a terrain. When they were going up the hill, they felt that it was nothing. They were similar to Li Sun's people. Everyone was the same. However, when they started their normal training, they realized that things were far from as simple as they thought. In the beginning, because they were full of stamina, they did not know how to conserve their energy when running up the hill. In the process of chasing back and forth as time passed, they realized that they did not have any energy left. On the other hand, Li Sun's guards were completely unscathed. They were able to execute all the tactical maneuvers. In just half a day's time, 100 people were annihilated by 200 people. The other side actually had 0 casualties. One of Old Man Pai's team angrily found Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and said to the two of them, Young master, young lady, this is not fair. They have more people and we have fewer people. 200 against 100 people, of course the 100 people will lose. Oh, you think so? Good, you have the guts to say what is in your heart. You deserve praise. You guys take a rest first. At the same time, you are responsible for my and Cuckoo's protection work. Let the others continue to train. After 4 hours, the protection team that has finished training will not do any rest and will directly fight against your 100 people. What if you still lose? Zhang Xiaobao did not expect that someone would find an excuse for himself. During a battle, who cared how many people you had? You were just one person and the other side would still fight. It was just 2 times the number. How many? In history, there were so many battles where fewer people won. It was not about who had more people. Today it was really exciting to cooperate with Zhang Xiaobao and play hide-and-seek with 100 people. She said happily, let's do it this way. I'll leave you 2 binoculars. You can use them. You have 2 hours. If you catch them, you will be rewarded with 10 strings of coins. If you don't catch them, you will be rewarded with 10 strings of coins. Is there any objection? The 100 people looked at the height of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and thought about their age. They did not take it to heart at all. They nodded and agreed, ready to earn 10 strings of coins. One by one, they rubbed their hands and waited for Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to run away. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan looked at the surrounding environment, chose a direction, and ran out holding hands. After running 100 steps, they shouted, "Okay, you can come and catch us. As long as you catch us, I will give you 10 strings of coins." The 100 people were excited. They did not need binoculars at all. They could see the clear figures of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan now. It was just that there were more trees, so it was nothing. They spread out and surrounded them, in case Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan ran away. In this way, the 100 people began to play hide and seek. The figures of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan appeared in front of them from time to time, but when they reached the place, they found that they were still so far away. They did not know how the 2 children could run so fast. As they ran, the 100 people found that one person in front of them was missing. Wang Wan was gone, and only Zhang Xiaobao was left. This time they were confused. Just now they wanted to catch Wang Wan, but they did not know when she had hidden. The person who complained at the beginning quickly ordered 50 people to look for Wang Wan on the way here. He thought that Wang Wan had hidden while the others were not paying attention, and the remaining 50 people continued to chase Zhang Xiaobao. The more they chased, the more trees there were. If it were not for Zhang Xiaobao's figure flashing from time to time, they really could not find him. This chase went on for an hour. The 100 people who had not had a chance to rest finally felt a little tired. However, they were not willing to take out 10 strings of coins for nothing, so they could only grit their teeth and continue to chase. After chasing for about a quarter of an hour, the person who complained first gestured for the 50 people to stop. He pointed to a place in front of them. There was a big tree there, and beside the tree a corner of clothes could be seen. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see it. Be careful. Surround it and surround this place. We finally caught one. I don't know if the people on the other side have caught Wang Wan. It's better to catch one than not to catch one. When the time comes, it will be hard to determine the winner, so we don't have to worry about taking out 10 strings of coins. The person whispered to the others. The crowd began to disperse and slowly surrounded the place. When the encirclement was successful, the 50 people shouted happily and rushed over. However, when they came close, everyone was dumbfounded. There was only one piece of Zhang Xiaobao's clothes here. It was held up by a stick, and from the angle they found it, there was a corner of it. There was also a piece of paper stuck to the clothes with a few words written on it. Remember to bring my clothes back. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as 10 strings of coins. What do we do? A person in the team asked. Chase. Pay attention to your feet and look for traces. The person who complained felt that he was sweating uncontrollably. He clearly saw Zhang Xiaobao running over, so how did he disappear in the blink of an eye? The 50 people began to look for traces on the ground again. If they hadn't surrounded him and ran in such a chaotic manner, they might have had a chance to find him. But now, no matter which direction they looked in, it seemed to be in the direction Zhang Xiaobao had left. The 50 people split up again to look for him, but the result was obvious. When Zhang Xiaobao was escaping, he had police dogs. Even so, they couldn't catch him, let alone the 50 of them. These 50 people couldn't find him, and the 50 people who were searching for Wang Wan were also at a loss. Where was Wang Wan? The 50 people discussed for a while and decided that Wang Wan was still with Zhang Xiaobao. They decided to meet up with the 50 people in front of them first. When the 100 people successfully met up, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were eating at the place where they first came out. We made a profit. 10 strings of cash per person, so 100 people will have 1,000 strings of cash. That's enough to do a lot of things. Xiaobao, do you think they can take out the 10 strings of cash per person? Wang Wan sat there and leaned her head on Zhang Xiaobao's shoulder. She ate a hazelnut as she asked Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao held a fruit that he had just plucked. He didn't care that it was so sour that his teeth were about to fall out. He ate it in small bites and replied, "They probably can. They don't usually have much to spend. Their meals are all ours. Just as well. We'll treat the 1,000 strings of cash as food money. If there's a chance in the future, organize a few more such activities. We can't let them take advantage of us for nothing." Then tell me, how do you think Grandpa Bai and Grandpa Yao will treat them when they know about this? Wang Wan stuffed a hazelnut into Zhang Xiaobao's hand. That's none of our business. Or we can help them keep it a secret and let them get all of Grandpa Bai's and Grandpa Yao's guards to play hide and seek with us. It's still 10 strings of cash. If we win once, we'll give the 100 people a tenth of what we won. If we win 10 times, they can earn back the money they lost. I think this is fine. I'll tell them later. Grandpa Bai and Grandpa Yao have quite a few guards. Perhaps Zhang Xiaobao felt that life was too dull, so he had to bully Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao's guards. He believed that even if they knew that their guards had lost, they could only vent their anger on their guards. Who asked that guard to be so stupid? The 2 hours they agreed on earlier passed quickly. The 100 people knew that they had lost, so they could only return, hoping to see Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. If they couldn't see them, then it would be even more troublesome. Sure enough, when they returned, they saw Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan opening the small tent on their backs. The two of them were sleeping inside. If I knew this would happen, I would have left a few people to guard this place. When they came back, I would have caught them. 10 strings of cash. Do you have enough? The person who complained first complained again and asked the others. They didn't have any money on them now. No one could bring a few kilograms of money out to do things, so they could only go back and give it to the others. The others nodded one after another, indicating that they had enough. However, this money was saved through hard work. They didn't have a military salary, only a monthly allowance. Occasionally, they helped Zhang Xiaobao and Wang deliver things. Only then did they save some money. After taking out 10 strings of cash, they all became poor again. One person didn't understand. He sat on the ground and said, "How did we lose them? We were watching. They were clearly right in front of us, but we lost one when we ran away." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Xiaobao's voice came from the tent, "Hurry up and rest. There's less than 2 hours left. The others will be finished, and it's time for you to compete. Let me tell you, Cuckoo and I went to climb the trees. Next time, remember to look for traces. Tracking is a skill. Sleep." After that, there was no sound in the tent. The 100 people looked at each other. They also looked at the trees, but there were too many trees and they were so dense. How could they know who had climbed a certain tree? Thinking that they would have to compete later, one by one, they lay on the ground. They didn't care if they were wet or not. They closed their eyes and slept, so that they could recover enough energy to compete with the 56 people who didn't have a chance to rest. While waiting for them to sleep soundly, the two groups of people returned. From their expressions, it was really hard to tell who had lost. Li Sun's 200 people hung their heads dejectedly, while the 56 people had gloomy expressions. The tent door opened and Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan came out. They looked at the two groups of people and asked, "Who lost?" "We lost," the two groups of people said at the same time. While the 100 people were still puzzled by the noise, the leader of the 56 people, Hu Zi, said very dispiritedly, "We had 56 people to deal with 200 of them. but we actually lost 41 people. Of the remaining 15 people, 9 of them were also judged to be injured. If it was really us who protected the young master and the young lady, the other side sent 300 people like young Master Li's bodyguards. The young master and the young lady couldn't be protected anymore. Later on, we were given special treatment and the loss was too great. If I had to fight again, I promised to reduce the number of deaths to. Another time is another time, it has nothing to do with this time. A person only has one life, which means that there are only 6 people who are unharmed. Not bad. It seems that we can continue to increase the intensity of the training. It has been 5 years, you have been trained for 5 years, the special forces have even been trained. Drink some water. We will go against the 100 of them again soon, 7 minutes to prepare. Zhang Xiaobao was very dissatisfied with the data. The 56 people were trained bit by bit according to the training method of the special forces. After 5 years, they actually got such a result. What was the special forces? They were the existence that could take the enemy's general's head from thousands of miles away. Using the special forces, there could only be one result. Alright. After all, the training methods we've summarized aren't very scientific. We'll take it slow in the future. Let them accumulate more experience first. When the next batch of people is in place, we'll select them bit by bit. They're directly incorporated into the team. Normal special forces selection is 1 in a million. Wang mediated at the side. Then she looked at Li Sun's 200 people. These 200 people were now speechless. They had also received training when they were in Luzhou. When they became the guards of the prince's mansion, they were selected again and again. In the end, after a fight, they were all defeated. 200 people against 56 people. Before they could feel sad, the other side had already felt sad. At this time, it was useless to say anything. It was embarrassing. When the young master found out, they did not know what kind of punishment they would face. Chapter 6:12. After resting for a while, the 56 people who were full of anger and the 100 people who were also uncomfortable ran out to fight again. At this time, the 100 people were very careful. They finally understood what the 56 people represented. They were the glory of the Zhang family and the Wang family. They defeated the 200 people they had defeated. Even if they didn't rest, they might not be able to win. As for what the 56 people said, they couldn't guarantee the safety of the young master and young lady because the other side had 300 people. They didn't believe it. They were exactly 100 people. They were fooled just now. If they lost again this time, they estimated that they would need at least 500 guards like Commandery Prince Li to catch the young master and young lady who were protected by the 56 people. It was no wonder that Zhang Zhong let the young master and young lady out. It turned out that the 100 people who chased after them were the weakest. They were 100 steps ahead of them, but they couldn't even catch the 2 children. Who else in the country could threaten the young master and young lady? There was no need to mention the result of the confrontation between the 100 people who were scared before the battle and the 56 people who were waiting to vent their anger. 4 of the 56 people died, while the 6 people who were affected by the battle ended up completely annihilating the 100 people. This was under the rule that they had the same weapons. If they had used the weapons specially prepared by the young master and young lady, they believed that there would be no problem in killing the 300 people. Well, it was just in the forest. In order to help the guards of Grandpa Bai and Grandpa Yao improve, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also specially taught them tactics, the application of terrain, camouflage, and psychology. Even though the 56 people and Li Sun's 200 people had already learned, they also listened carefully. This was because the young master and young lady would add new content in every lesson. Even if the general idea was the same, the details were absolutely different. There were also examples that the 2 people found somewhere. It was the first time that the 100 people of Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao had listened to such a lesson. The more they listened, the more shocked they were. At this time, they understood that they didn't lose unjustly. While they were slowly exploring, the other side had already formed a whole set of theories. Especially the psychology part, the analysis of human nature made people tremble. Thinking back to himself, that was indeed what he was thinking at that time. Even his thoughts had been grasped by others. How could he not lose? That's all for today's class. In a while we'll massage each other to relieve fatigue. After eating, have a good rest. At the same time, think about what you've learned today. In the next class tomorrow night, I'm going to talk about how to adjust your rhythm when you're tired and excited. Cuckoo will explain it to you. Excitement is the cause of body control errors. Class dismissed. Zhang Xiaobao threw away the stick that was used as a pointer and said to the crowd, "Whoosh!" Li Sun's 200 bodyguards and 56 members of Squad 0 stood up at the same time and respectfully bowed to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Their uniform movements shocked the 100 people. They had never seen others act like this before. Today was an eye-opener. They were indeed different. They had actually secretly learned so many things. It seemed that they had to go back and tell Master that they didn't take out the good stuff. Just as the 100 people had such thoughts, Zhang Xiaobao opened his mouth again and said to them, "Go back and tell Grandpa Bai and Grandpa Yao that I, Xiaobao, said that if they want to train military officers, they should arrange for smart people to come over. I will only say the same thing once with Cuckoo. Learn as much as you can, and don't answer any more questions after class. Cuckoo and I don't have time for that. Also, the most important thing is that they have to be literate. If they don't understand, don't blame others. We will only teach 100 people at a time. The quota is limited, so you have to cherish it. Yes, all of you just tell the truth. If anyone dares to mix their emotions in, don't blame me and Cuckoo for being rude." The 100 people were scared out of their wits. How did he know when they had just had such thoughts? Furthermore, he had even mentioned all the details. After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan finished their lessons, they began to rest. During this period of time, the two of them wanted to train everyone, especially Grandpa Bai and Grandpa Yao's people, so that they would be useful in the future. During the days when Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were training people, the people in the various strongholds in Wing Prefecture were busy picking fruits. No matter how far away they were, they all received the news. Countless fruits were sent to the prefecture and Wing Prefecture. The craftsmen from outside also burned many large vats to ferment the fruits. A portion of the charcoal that Zhang Xiaobao had people purchase earlier was used to turn the red pond into white sugar. After that, it was processed into rock sugar so that it could be used to make wine together with the fruits. When this portion of charcoal was delivered, Old Man Pai and the other two were puzzled. When did they buy the charcoal? In the end, after asking around, they found out that they had already been purchasing charcoal when the fleet was sailing on the river. After obtaining this result, the three old men fell into a daze again. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Unless they have an immortal in their family. Didn't they just receive the news on the river? How could they have started preparing? Could it be that at that time they had predicted that this would be the result? Old Man Chang couldn't accept this fact no matter what. Old Man Pai clearly knew that the Zhang family was magical, but he couldn't help but be shocked again. When he got on the ship, he told Xiaobao and Cuckoo about this mission. At that time, they also told the Zhang family that they couldn't find an expert. In a short period of time, the provisions were prepared and the transportation problem was solved. This was already shocking enough, but this time they even considered the current situation. What was wrong with their heads? They had calculated to this extent. After listening to Old Man Chang's words, he said with deep sympathy, "Indeed, the news just came back. If all of this started after we told them about the situation, then I really don't know what they can't do." That's right, that's what I thought too. The news that just came back was sent by Great General Guotu from Pangzhou. Along the way, they actually opened a path in the mountains and built bridges in the rivers. In the rain, they even built shelters and made food. Then they prepared a fleet to send the soldiers to the border. Originally, they thought that they would arrive in 10 days if the weather was good, but in the end they arrived in 8.5 days if the weather was bad. Look at the words that General Guotu wrote at the end. This is logistics, the real logistics. The logistics of Idyll is unparalleled in the world. The Zhang family's logistics matters were told after they got on the ship. If they had told us before, I have no doubt that the Zhang family would have sent the logistics camp to Jinchuan to supply our troops. Old Man Yao thought about everything that had happened after they arrived in Idyll. The first thing he felt was powerlessness. He and the others had been keeping an eye on them, but in the end they couldn't do it. They couldn't even keep up with their rhythm. Yes, rhythm. This word was used too well. It was like playing chess. While he was thinking about how to make the knots, the other side had already started to count. There was a big gap. Thinking of this, Old Man Yao said, "What do you think will happen if we make trouble for them? They definitely won't think of it, right? They won't, especially Cuckoo and Xiao Bao. How could they think of the 3 grandfathers making trouble for their family behind their backs? These 3 grandfathers are still eating the dishes made by their family, enjoying the medical conditions, and always stabbing them in the back when they are accompanying them to relieve their boredom." Hearing Yao Chong's words, Old Man Chong was dissatisfied. They were eating other people's food, receiving benefits from them, and being respected by them. How could they still want to make trouble behind their backs? If they really did such a thing, his grandson Xiao Bao and granddaughter Cuckoo would be completely gone. Then they would just have to wait for the other side's revenge. What kind of situation would that be? Looking at the way the Zhang family handled things, it was obvious. For those who directly opposed them, they would use soft-heartedness and suppression. But for those who betrayed them, they would definitely launch an overwhelming attack. As long as they achieved their goal, they would do anything. Old Man Pai was also dissatisfied. He looked at Yao Chong, meaning to say, "Yuanji, have you forgotten who led a team to save you when you were about to die? Whose family's doctors and fast boats were used? If you didn't have a past with the Zhang family, you would have to die." "I'm just asking. I don't intend to do that. The Zhang family is too powerful. I suddenly had the idea of competing with them. If this goes on, I will die of discomfort." How could Yao Chong not know the meaning of the 2 old men? He quickly explained. He really didn't intend to make trouble behind their backs. At that time, he really felt like he was going to die. Later, Old Man Pai came and stabilized his condition. Then he went to Shuzhou. As soon as he met the Zhang family and Wang family, he was specially taken care of. The most powerful medical team of the Zhang family, or the most powerful medical team of the Tang Empire, kept checking his pulse, giving him a prescription, and contacting the people in the restaurant. Since then, what he had to do every day was regulated. What he could eat, what he couldn't eat, how he could eat, and how much he could eat. It was so detailed that it was hard to imagine. It was precisely because of this that his body gradually improved and he could occasionally drink like now. Just the cost of the medicine and food alone was more than a few thousand strings of coins. If he was stabbed in the back, there was no need for the experts of the Zhang family to take revenge. All the officials of the Tang Empire who knew about this matter, including the emperor, would immediately deal with him. Enemies were not hateful, but ingratitude was the most intolerable. Chapter 6:13. They collected a lot of fruits and shipped them out in batches while they were fermenting. They were sent to the outside and sent to the capital by ship to continue fermenting there. When Zhang Zhong saw that most of the fruits had been picked and the local people had exchanged for the necessities they needed, he gathered the chiefs of the strongholds to drink and have fun with them. The chiefs of the strongholds were quite satisfied with Zhang Zhong, the new official. He didn't use his official status to pressure them like the other officials. Of course, they weren't afraid of him. During the days when Zhang Zhong was here, he was like a brother to the locals. He did things from the perspective of a brother, which made the chiefs feel very comfortable. Because some of the people were near and some were far away, Zhang Zhong had no choice but to first prepare the things and settle the people who came first. After all, the matters to be discussed later required the participation of all the patriarchs. If he told a portion of the people in advance, the people who came later would not be willing. "Fang Sima, how many people are missing?" Zhang Zhong sat in the yamen and asked Fang Sima, who came with a list. "Sir, we are missing 2 people. It is estimated that they will arrive in less than 2 days. Sir, do you want to summon all of them here now?" Fang Sima replied respectfully. He now not only admired Zhang Zhong, but also feared him. He had been the Sima of Wing Prefecture for 6 years. In the past, it was very troublesome to do things every year. The local people didn't cooperate at all. He didn't dare to scare them. If he didn't scare them, it would be easy for them to rebel. When Zhang Zhong came, he thought that Zhang Zhong would do the same thing as him. When it came to collecting tribute, he would go to each stronghold to discuss it. Who knew that this was not the case at all? Zhang Zhong came here to have fun, and he even built a good relationship with the local people while he was having fun. Now, it was needless to say that all the strongholds recognized Zhang Zhong as the new official. From this, it could be seen that the Zhang family was not only good at business but also as officials. His son had indeed found a good place in the academy. He could not afford to offend him. Even if this Zhang Zhong was much younger than him, he still had to look up to him. Otherwise, he would lose his chance. Feng Sima had been warning himself like this for the past few days to avoid making a mistake and provoking Zhang Zhong's displeasure. Zhang Zhong also wrote a letter back because of his relationship with Feng Sima. He asked the people there to take care of Feng Sima's son. It would be best if he could become a jinshi and get a high position. Zhang Zhong shook his head and said, "No, even if it's just one person, we have to wait for him. If something happens to him on the way, I'll have to go and ask him personally. Then we'll have to wait for another person from the stronghold to come here and discuss this matter. What about the limestone that I asked you to purchase under the name of the government? That's the key to the success or failure of this matter. We can't be careless." "Sir, it's all ready. The people who took the job are burning it. If we don't give them the money now, they'll be worried. This is not the first time they've asked someone to tell me. Should we give them some benefits first?" Feng Sima didn't understand why Zhang Zhong wanted to buy so much limestone. He asked people to burn it and he also asked people to pick it. He even used the government's name to buy it. Even now, he still owed money. If it was a normal business, he would have stopped doing it long ago. Zhang Zhong was not worried at all. He said to Feng Sima, "Don't worry. If anyone wants to quit, tell them to send the finished goods over and pay immediately. But they won't use their goods in the future." Let's see how many people can stay in the end. "Sir, where do we get the money from?" Feng Sima did not think that the manor could take out the money. "Of course it's from my family. There's no need for the rest. It's better to use the government's means to solve the problem. Now I understand that as long as it's not necessary to use my family's money, I won't use it." Zhang Zhong was going to experiment with his idea in Wing Prefecture. That was, his family would not easily invest money in it unless they had no other choice. After everything was arranged properly, the two human leaders who had arrived late had finally arrived. The meeting could begin. Old Man Pai and the other two also came to join in the fun. They wanted to see what other tricks the Zhang family had. At the same time, they wanted to verify their own guesses. Sometimes this kind of game was really interesting even if they guessed wrong. One by one, the patriarchs sat in the hall, waiting for Zhang Zhong's arrival. At this time, they did not have the usual idea of calling each other brothers. After all, Zhang Zhong invited them in the name of the government. Of course, it was different. In the past, if anyone dared to invite them in the name of the government, they would not come. They would be lucky if they did not fall out with him. But now they did not feel disgusted with Zhang Zhong at all. Zhang Zhong had brought them a lot of benefits, especially the hospitals in the city. Many people had been treated after they came here. In addition, they collected fruits and exchanged goods with the shops. The lives of the 4,000 or so people in Wing Prefecture were much better. Not to mention other things, they could eat salt every day for every meal. Compared to the past, it was really unbearable to look back on. Zhang Zhong did not make any long-winded speech. He directly told them his plan, which was a part of the plan left by his son. Yes, a part. After this, there would be more. It was the kind of plan that was closely linked. He had not seen it for a long time. This time it finally appeared again. Old Man Pai and the other two also listened carefully. There was not much content. It was very simple. It was to build a dam in a place that was suitable for each village. It did not need to be big, just small ones. They would store the snow water on the mountain. The materials for building the dam had been prepared. As long as the patriarchs agreed, it could be implemented in a few days. This should be to burn the cement locally. It is estimated that after it is burned, the place will be flattened immediately. This secret cannot be leaked out. Old Man Zhang held a glass of wine in his hand and took small sips as he spoke. His wine was not for him to drink casually. Old Man Bai and Old Man Yao did not have the medicinal wine that was specially prepared for him. The main reason was that he had always practiced hard skills in the past and did not take care of his body. When he was older and in such an environment, his joints could not take it anymore. The pain could no longer be alleviated according to the treatment methods in the past. Fortunately, there was a good person in the medical team of the Zhang family, who wrote a new prescription. That was to drink half a liter of ant wine a day. The alcohol content was not high, but it was pure grain wine. With hot water packs and massage, the pain was not so bad yesterday. He continued to drink today. Old Man Pai also wanted to drink, but was stopped. He could only stare. When he heard Old Man Chang's words, he said, "We all know that we need to use cement, but the question is what to do next. What is the purpose of building a dam? Storing water and then irrigating it. This is something that everyone can understand. It is definitely not the Zhang family's way of doing things. I understand now. If you want to know what the Zhang family is going to do, you have to think about it in an abnormal way. The more you think about it, the closer you are to the truth. In my opinion, the Zhang family is building a dam here. First, it is not entirely for irrigation, and second, it is not entirely for the purpose of raising fish and shrimp. This is the most correct consideration in the eyes of others, but it is not suitable for the Zhang family. Think about it, other than these two, what else can the dam be used for? What else can it be used for? It is convenient to wash clothes, they don't have to find a river, and they don't have to dig a well to draw water. Does that count? Old Man Yao also agreed with Old Man Pai. If the Zhang family's plan was so easy to guess, then the Zhang family was not the Zhang family. That would be disappointing. That counts as one, but I don't think it is possible. The Zhang family is not stupid. They would spend a lot of money to build a dam to make it convenient for others to wash clothes. I think they will put a boat on it and wait for tourists to come. Old Man Chang added. Old Man Pai was now confident. He said to the two of them, "After listening to you, I know that the Zhang family will not build a dam specifically for irrigation. They will not raise fish, wash clothes, or boat. I have concluded that whatever other people can think of is not the Zhang family's main purpose." Then why not? Old Man Chang asked. For example, we know that charcoal is used to filter sugar. That is definitely not the most important step. Otherwise, why would the Zhang family only use a part of the charcoal they bought? They even bought it in advance. Could it be that they did not think that the wood here can also be used to burn charcoal? It is not possible that they prepared it for skiing. Old Man Pai believed in his intuition and said with certainty. Just as the three old men kept guessing and denying, Zhang Zhong had finished the arrangements. All the chiefs of the strongholds agreed with Zhang Zhong's idea. In the inner courtyard of the Zhang family, Xiao Hongchen, who was singing and dancing, and the night was long without dawn. Everyone spent a night that they had never had before. Everyone was present. It was worth remembering. While the people of Idyll were busy building the dam before the autumn harvest, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also finished the 10th day of lessons. Just as the two of them were preparing to continue the training, Peng Zhou suddenly sent someone to deliver a message. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan saw the message, they really couldn't believe that Guotu was stupid enough to directly use all the troops in one place. He didn't even feint or restrain them. Does he think that his army is 150,000? That's only 15,000 people. The most infuriating thing is that he didn't capture or kill the people along the way. Isn't that stupid? He's too soft-hearted. Since it's a war, it's either you die or I die. Look at what happened now. We were discovered in advance, and the logistics provisions were burned. Wang Wan complained with a gloomy face. She didn't know what Guotu was thinking. He led such a small number of people, but he still let the local people do what they were supposed to do in the past. At this time, if you can't do it, you can only wait for others to do it. As a general, would he be afraid of carrying too many wronged souls? How good would it be to go home and be a farmer? Zhang Xiaobao also didn't expect Guotu to do such a thing. Did he think that he was an international peace organization or a member of the peacekeeping force? This was an invasion. What was there to say about invasion? Those who should be killed would be killed, and those who should be burned would be burned. When the time came, he would take all the blame. So what if he killed more people? The people of the motherland would remember his kindness. The Japanese killed a lot of people, but didn't they still have a shrine? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. After carefully reading the message twice, Zhang Xiaobao said gloomily, "Who the fuck made the imperial court's decree? Why didn't they come earlier or later? Why did they have to come at this time? They said that they wanted us to follow the vanguard to victory. Damn it, from the imperial court to here the news would take a long time to spread, right? Did they really trust Guotu that much? They even let us follow behind him. I'm so angry. This is good. The officials of Pengzhou don't have to worry about dereliction of duty." Wang Wan was also very helpless. She knew that this was the imperial court's compensation for her and Xiao Bao's family. They thought that Guotu could fight to the end and achieve a perfect victory, so letting them follow him was an advantage. When the time came, they would continue to receive benefits when they contributed. It should be Li Longji. He felt that it was wrong to directly transfer my father from Shuzhou to Yingzhou and hide the situation. He used this war to gain benefits for my family. But why didn't he think about it? Guotu isn't like other generals. He was stunned when he went up. I admit defeat. Could it be that Li Longji's luck is so good that he knew that I made preparations? Alright, let's go back. Let's go back to Pengzhou and continue to reinforce Great General Guotu's day. Damn it. I should have done what I should have done. If I didn't use the resources on him, I could have done something else. Great, now I didn't earn the money I should have earned. Zhang Xiaobao was really helpless at this time. He couldn't blame Li Longji. He had good intentions. If possible, he really wanted to strangle Guotu and let Wang Wan command the army. At least he couldn't make such a stupid mistake. Fortunately, Wang Wan was also a talented student. She couldn't attack, but she didn't know how to defend. Wang Wan was also very depressed. She called out to the people who were still training and rushed back with the team. Li Longji's order had been issued. They couldn't just leave him in the lurch. This was the place where the logistics were tested. Xiao Bao, don't be afraid. When we resisted the United States and aided Korea, we received the most classic strangulation tactic used by the United States Air Force. We survived, so why should we be afraid of the current Tubo? Wang Wan comforted Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao wasn't someone who didn't know anything. He immediately retorted, "What does that have to do with us?" At that time their planes were flying everywhere. If the Soviet Union didn't join the war and send so many outstanding pilots and planes, do you really think that the anti-aircraft guns hidden in the mountains and the trains would be useful? Then what should we do? We can't do anything even if we tell them. Should we just let them wait for their deaths? Wang Wan asked. Zhang Xiaobao took 2 deep breaths and said to Wang Wan, "Cuckoo, actually in my heart, I've always felt or hoped that Guotu would lose the war and give you a chance. This is also the reason why I borrowed Li Sun's 200 people. I've already prepared everything else. I hope that you can do something at this time to show your value. You've never been a subordinate in my heart. Let's go. I'll show you the workings of an international scam." As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he pulled Wang Wan onto a horse. The two of them rode together and led the 300 people in the direction of Pengzhou Prefecture. It took them more than 2 hours to reach their destination. The people in the inner courtyard had already prepared everything according to Zhang Xiaobao's instructions. Wang Wan looked at the things Zhang Xiaobao prepared behind her back and couldn't say a word. Everything in front of her was prepared for her by Zhang Xiaobao to show her value. If he didn't need it, he would immediately go into hiding. But now that he needed it, she didn't need to worry about the equipment. As long as she prepared the battle strategy well, everything would be fine. Xiao Bao, these things are prepared for the female general in my heart. Right now, you're no longer a member of the Special 2nd Division, nor are you China's overlord Flower. You're a general who commands thousands of soldiers and horses. Take out everything you've learned before, and the battle strategy you've slowly figured out after coming here. Let me see the battle strategy that gathered the wisdom of generations of people. At this moment, Zhang Xiaobao felt that this was the most successful moment of his life. He prepared everything for Wang Wan so that Wang Wan could achieve her dreams, instead of standing behind him as an obedient woman. Wang Wan planted a big kiss on Zhang Xiaobao's face and changed into the armor that Zhang Xiaobao prepared for her. She waved her spear and shouted at the 300 people who were equally shocked. Let's go and reinforce the front lines. Logistics camp, follow me. The 300 people now knew what they had to do. They also flipped onto the backs of the prepared horses, picked up their weapons, and led the supply and medical teams behind them to follow Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao. While the Pengzhou officials were still in a daze, they rushed out of the pass and headed for Guotu's troops who were blocked on the mountain. Chapter 6:14. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao led the troops and rushed out of the pass with the cute rice seedling flag fluttering in the wind. The officials of Pengzhou looked at the shadow of the setting sun that was getting longer and longer. For a moment they didn't know what to feel. According to the information that was sent back, Wang Wan analyzed the approximate location of Guotu's troops. Although the person who came back to report didn't say Guotu's plan, Wang Wan could still understand what he wanted to do. That was to not directly cross the river from Ruoshui and attack Jinchuan. Instead, they would secretly go to the other side of Jinchuan's mountain range and launch a sneak attack on Jinchuan. The idea was not bad, but it was not ruthless enough. Now their retreat path should be blocked, and the road ahead was open. The Tubo people wanted to lure the Tang army to the most comfortable path forward. Once they entered, they could forget about coming back. I'm sure that Guotu will escape north along Jinchuan's mountain range. Oh, it's called tactical diversion. He won't force a breakthrough. Even if he escapes back, not to mention the loss of troops, the mission will not be completed. Will Li Longji let him go so easily? Of course he won't go west either. Once he goes in, he will be buried in a foreign land. The Tubo people will send people to surround that place like an iron bucket. As long as a general is not a fool, he won't be able to rush over. However, the mountain range is also getting more and more difficult. If he walks halfway up the mountain, he will be easily discovered by the enemy below and be followed all the way up. If he goes up, he will be waiting to become an ice sculpture. This time Guotu can recite a poem. The Green Mountain is blessed to bury the loyal bones. Why should he bury the corpse on the battlefield? Wang Wan opened the military map here and compared it one by one. Then she analyzed it for Zhang Xiaobao to hear. Zhang Xiaobao didn't understand military matters. To be precise, he could fool people, but it was a dream to ask him to analyze the situation of a battle. If this kind of professional knowledge could be mastered so easily, then he would really become a god. At the very least, he would have to lead the army and fight a few battles before he could think clearly. Looking at the troops behind, Zhang Xiaobao found a place on the map that was easy to go up the mountain and said, "Do we need to reinforce from here?" "No, you've seen it for yourself. Don't the Tubo people know which part of their territory is suitable for others to enter? Head north, continue to head north. Make use of our current mobility to rush ahead of the two armies. I estimate that we will need to travel for 4 days. Let's hope that Guotu's army won't travel too fast on the mountain. That way, the Tubo people will be able to catch up faster. When we turn from the north to the west and prepare to go up the mountain to provide reinforcements, we will bump into the Tubo army at the west of Jinchuan. With the amount of people we have, we can only run if we bump into them. If we can't run away, then we'll just kill one to break even. If we can't kill two, then we'll make a profit." Wang Wan's hand drew a line on the map. Once they passed through the checkpoint, they would head north. Zhang Xiaobao was worried and asked again, "Then Guotu and the others still have food?" "It's long gone. When the informants return to Pengzhou, their rations will be eaten. The rations in the early stages will be burned. How many days of rations do you think they can bring with them? Now, I reckon that they have killed most of their horses and are hunting wild animals in the mountains. They are also looking for edible wild vegetables and fruits." Wang Wan had already thought of the general situation. This kind of thing was too common in the history of war. Some people escaped, reorganized their troops, and looked for an opportunity to obtain the final victory. Some people were drowned in the river of history. As for a person who could immediately organize an effective sneak attack and obtain a great victory in such a situation, she had never heard of anyone who could organize an effective sneak attack and obtain a great victory. "I remember now. Then we have to go over and help. Even if we can't attack the enemy, we have to deliver the food to them." Zhang Xiaobao could imagine the situation when so many people had no food on the mountain. Of course, if it were the people from the protection team, he wouldn't have to worry. If the 15,000 people were all part of the protection team, they would at least be able to kill more enemies. However, it was impossible to rely on the resources on the mountain for supplies. There were too many people and too few resources unless they could spread out. Wang Wan looked up at the sky and pretended that it was sunny. After thinking for a while, she said, "They won't starve to death in a short time. If they are hungry, they won't have the strength, so they won't hinder us from going over. Let's go and advance. I want to see if the Tibetan army can also surround us in the desert." When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan came out of seclusion and followed the orders of Li Longji, who didn't know the situation and wanted to give credit to the Zhang family, to provide reinforcements, the non-combat inner courtyard members left in Pengzhou also sent the news to Idyll as fast as they could. Wing Prefecture was developing well. Various strongholds began to cooperate with Zhang Zhong's plan to find a way to build dams. They diverted water away from places that originally had water, and directly built dams in places that couldn't hold water, or had little water. There was a wage for this, and it wasn't paid by the Zhang family and Wang family. It was put in the profit of the cement and paid in advance with the profits of the prefecture. To be precise, it was owed. While Zhang Zhong was happily drinking and having fun with the chief of the stronghold, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's first letter arrived. The letter emphasized that they wanted to develop transportation here and purchase tea leaves. Old Man Pai and the other two's mission was to help open up channels here. The Zhang family wants to continue developing here? Occupy the tea horse path? Otherwise, Xiaobao and Cuckoo wouldn't have written this letter. It seems that they went out this time to check out the terrain. When Old Man Pai saw the proposal written in the letter, he guessed to Old Man Chong and Old Man Yao. Old Man Chong didn't think too much. When he heard Old Man Pai's words, he said happily, "That's really good. The Zhang family can finally make more money. Otherwise, they will keep throwing money in. That's not good." Old Man Yao thought more deeply. He stared at the letter and said, "The Zhang family's plan is good, but we can't let them occupy this trade route. If they do, their family's power will spread here. The people in the imperial court and even the emperor won't agree. The trading area here must be occupied by various local forces. Then the imperial court can collect taxes with peace of mind. If the Zhang family is given to them, no matter how much tax they pay, they won't feel at ease." That's right. The Zhang family is giving the imperial court a difficult problem. If they are not allowed to carry out the tea horse trade here, then the money owed to them will have to be returned to them. But I always feel that things are not that simple. Don't they know that doing business here will make people worry? Look at what it says. It says that they want to find some local people who aren't afraid of the cold to work on the snow mountain. It's best if they can stay on the mountain for 10 to 15 days. Don't you think it's strange? If they want to find people to stay at the ski resort, why do they have to deliberately emphasize it? Old Man Pai was analyzing again. He was used to the Zhang family's way of doing things. It was one thing to let people watch, but it was another thing to actually achieve the goal. No one could guess what the Zhang family's ultimate goal was. It was precisely because of this that many people like to play guessing games with the Zhang family. Even if they had never guessed correctly, sometimes it was very interesting to know the Zhang family's thoughts in advance, or to find some obstacles for the Zhang family. Old Man Chong saw the two of them talking so mysteriously, so he said in annoyance, "Who cares what they want to do? When the time comes, it'll be fine as long as we don't agree. When the war is over, we'll know what the Zhang family's plan is. If they want oranges, we'll give them dates. I understand what you mean and what the imperial court is thinking. That is, we can't do everything according to the Zhang family's plan. It's easy for things to go wrong, and they have to mess up what was going smoothly for the Zhang family." Old Man Chong now understood. The Zhang family was too powerful, so those who truly cared about national affairs couldn't give the Zhang family too much freedom. Otherwise, it would be difficult to control them in the future. "I'm just afraid that the Zhang family's plan isn't so simple. They set one trap after another, making people confused. They don't know what the Zhang family's final plan is. Even if the Zhang family and Wang family are given the official positions they deserve, they can't relax. After being set up once with the Zhang family's strong personality, they won't be able to get back at them. Think about it again. Things won't be so simple. When they really find out, it'll be difficult to stop them. Unless they arrest everyone in the Zhang family, the emperor won't do something like that that would destroy the Great Wall. Old Man Pai was still carefully reading the contents of the letter, trying to get some inspiration from it. Old Man Chong couldn't think of anything, so he sat on the side and drank tea alone. Old Man Yao frowned and tried hard to put himself in the Zhang family's shoes. This was a new term that he had learned. It was called thinking from another's perspective, and it was very helpful. Zhang Zhong also thought about his son and daughter-in-law's plan. He also couldn't understand why they would send back a letter that everyone could see at this time. It was as if they were afraid that Old Man Pai and the other two wouldn't know, so they specifically wrote details for the three of them to help. Compared to Old Man Bai and the other two, Zhang Zhong was not willing to spend more effort. Regardless of whether his son and daughter-in-law were scheming against others or if they really wanted to earn more money, as long as they followed the instructions in the letter, they would definitely not go wrong. Thus, Zhang Zhong began to look for suitable people in the area and around to sign a contract. When the time came, he would cooperate with his son and daughter-in-law. 4 days later, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan finally arrived at the place that Wang Wan had thought of. After resting for a while, they began to move towards the mountains in the west. Along the way, whenever they encountered a village, they would try to avoid the big ones and kill all the small ones. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan even personally killed a few people. It would be a lie to say that it wasn't painful to watch one life after another disappear in front of their eyes. Fortunately, the two of them already knew the cruelty of war. Rather than exposing themselves and losing their lives, it was better to let others die. Not only the two of them, but even Old Man Pai, Old Man Yao, Li Sun's bodyguards and the people from the seedling protection team had to see blood on their hands. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also had to temporarily act as mentors and give psychological counseling to the people who killed. They didn't want the people they brought along to end up like the American soldiers from more than 100 years ago, who returned home after fighting in the Korean War and suffered from many sequelae. According to the records, when the People's Liberation Army was under the sound of the charging horn, it was a kind of suicidal charge. The horn didn't stop, and they continued to charge, causing great psychological pressure to the American soldiers. Many people didn't even dare to listen to the sound of car horns when they returned home. The People's Liberation Army, who had fought many wars, had fewer sequelae. The main reason was because of the existence of mentors, who could also be said to be battlefield psychologists. They turned killing and war into an existence that protected their beliefs. Through various means, they let the soldiers know that they were right to kill and that it was wrong to not kill. The effect was quite good. Now Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were like this. They repeatedly emphasized how the people of Wangjiang died and how miserable they were when they died. They also said how arrogant the people of Tubo were. They were clearly asking for peace, but they actually said it in the tone of a victorious country. Moreover, they were always attacking the border. Under such psychological counseling, more than 300 people finally got used to killing people bit by bit. Even Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan seemed to feel that they were right to kill, even if they killed civilians. Since their civilians support their political system, then they have to bear the consequences and responsibilities accordingly. Especially when Guotu let them go, they still went to report. This shows that they are not ordinary civilians. Zhang Xiaobao continued to give ideological guidance during the night's rest. He said this to more than 300 people who had personally participated in the killing. In his heart, he was thinking about the information he learned in the past. During the Sino-Vietnamese War, the Vietnamese civilians wrapped explosives around their bodies to blow people up. He used this to make himself feel less uncomfortable. When more than 300 people were thinking the same, Zhang Xiaobao turned his head to look at Wang Wan. Seeing that Wang Wan's expression was very calm, he could not help but admire her. It seemed that he was not as good as Wang Wan in this aspect. Even though he had killed many people in the past, after all, the people he killed were people who he thought deserved to die. At that time, his thoughts were very simple. Since the law was a weapon to protect everyone, then when this weapon was used, he should use other means to protect the justice emphasized by society. Wang Wan saw Zhang Xiaobao looking over, smiled and said, "Are you still not feeling well? Actually, it's nothing. You have to remember that we are committing a crime, But in order to protect a certain kind of belief, then let us bear all the sins. No, it's not that bad. I just feel a little unaccustomed to suddenly participating in a war. In the past it was others who killed people. This time I will do it myself. Give me some time to get used to it. How could Zhang Xiaobao admit that he could not do it? He really admired the criminals who robbed and killed people. They were too good, especially serial criminals. How could they do it to their own people? He felt a little pity for the people who were still not feeling well. Then eat some more food, especially the half-cooked meat. While eating, think about the bloody scene of killing. To be honest, I have killed many people, but most of them were with guns. Many people will not wait for you to catch them. They will run to the mountains or the corners of the city. You have to catch them. If they resist, then you can't be killed by them. I also had nightmares at that time, but later on my family told me, especially my grandfather. He said that soldiers in war are not only the ruler's tools, but also the ruler's wealth. There is no ruler who does not want their people to live a good life, but some people are not capable, so the result is different. The development of human beings has never been separated from war. No matter what kind of flag is raised, the world's peace is always maintained by force. Even animals are like this, so how can humans not be compared to animals? Wang Wan began to counsel Zhang Xiaobao. Perhaps she was also comforting herself. When people did something, they always had to find a reason for themselves, even if it seemed so weak. Everyone spent the night resting. Needless to say, with the help of psychological counseling, everyone slept soundly. Tomorrow was the day they would enter the mountains. How well they slept tonight would have a huge impact on tomorrow's operation. Early the next morning, everyone got up in a hurry. After eating a half-full breakfast, they sped up their pace. When it was almost evening, everyone finally saw the mountain range in front of them. If it was not for the map, no one would know how long this mountain range was. It looked like there was no end to it. At this time, Wang Wan did not let the small supply team continue to follow them. She let them continue to advance north along the mountain range under the leadership of Old Man Pai and Old Man Yao. She also let them not kill the villagers they occasionally saw on the way, and gave them all the horses. If they encountered people chasing after them, they would take enough food to eat for half a month and continue north until they entered the desert. At that time there would be people to take care of them. After the burden left, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan led the rest of the people to carry large bags and began to climb up the mountain. They also let the people who did not leave erase the traces to avoid being discovered by the Tubo people. As Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's figures disappeared into the forest, the rest of the people began to prepare and then quickly headed north. They did not need to directly participate in the war, they only needed to protect themselves. 3 days later, Peng Zhou's letter was sent to Idyll. This time Old Man Pai and the others did not see it. Only Zhang Xiaobao and the Wang family knew what was written in the letter. When Zhang Zhong saw this news, he was completely dumbfounded. He did not expect that this trip, which was supposed to be like a vacation, would have a different meaning. His son and daughter-in-law actually personally led the troops to reinforce them. He really wanted to grab Li Longji's neck in Beijing and ask him what he was planning. However, he also knew that he could not blame him. When he sent the letter, the battle had not started yet. He originally thought that it would be an easy attack, but it turned out to be like this. No one could have expected it. Sigh. Good intentions have made a mistake. Zhang Zhong sighed. He really wanted to go and help on behalf of his son and daughter-in-law, but he also knew that he did not have the ability. If he went, he would definitely not be able to come back alive. Zhang Wang clan and the people of the Wang family also stayed here. They also knew about Xiaobao and Cuckoo's situation. Wang Wan's father was a general, but it had nothing to do with war. In fact, he could barely recognize the words on the letter, and he even mispronounced a few words. Seeing Zhang Zhong's reaction, he immediately became anxious and said to Zhang Zhong, "Isn't Xiaobao's group too few people? Why don't we call Bai Shu and Yao Chang's people, as well as the guards in our inner courtyard to help?" "What nonsense are you talking about? We can't let others know now. Besides, even if we go there, we won't be able to find them. They have been out for so many days, who knows where they went? I just hope that they don't meet the Tubo people. Otherwise, what will happen to my cuckoo and Xiaobao? Wang Wan's mother was also anxious, but she also knew that there were many things that she could not say. She kept praying in her heart, and she begged all the gods, hoping that Xiaobao and cuckoo could come back safely. Zhang Wang clan was the calmest at this time. It was not that she was not worried, but she knew that it was useless to worry. She comforted everyone. Xiaobao and cuckoo are not ordinary people, they are gods. Even if others are dead, no one can stop them if they want to come back. Instead of being anxious, it is better to settle the things here first. When they come back, we don't have to worry anymore. Zhang Wang clan's words were really effective. When the people of the two families thought of Xiaobao and cuckoo's magic, they felt a little relieved. They thought that if two gods went over, even if they were little gods, ordinary people would not be able to hurt them. Therefore, one by one, they began to cooperate with Zhang Zhong, trying their best to settle the things in Idyll. They did not have to wait for the children to come back and have to be busy again. Guotu walked on the mountain road with difficulty. In fact, there was no road. There were many people walking on it, so it became a road. There were people in front of him cutting branches, making it more comfortable for the people behind to walk. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. If I had known, I would have killed all the people, tied them up and sealed their mouths. Unexpectedly, it didn't work. They must have told on us. Otherwise, how could we be discovered by the Tubo army? It's good that they are dead. If we fail and go back, how can we face Zhang Zhong's logistics camp? Guotu usually read a lot of military books, and he even passed the military examination. However, this was his first time fighting a war. Back then, when the imperial court used the sand table to make deductions, he was the most powerful general of the same period. That was why he was sent out. In the end, before he could even touch the enemy's city, he was already in danger. Out of the original 15,000, only 12,000 were left. It was unknown whether the other 3,000 were all dead, or if some of them had lost their way in the mountains. The provisions they were escorting were also gone. When the military staff at the side saw that Guotu seemed to have lost his fighting spirit, he hurriedly advised, "General, you can't be so reckless. The soldiers are still waiting for you to lead everyone to attack Jinchuan. There are still 12,000 people. As long as we avoid the Tubo army, we can continue to stop them." Although he said that, the military staff was already in despair. It was true that there were 12,000 people, but there was no food left. If this continued, not only would they not be able to break out of the encirclement, they would also starve to death. When they rushed down, they would have no energy. How could they fight? The scariest thing was not fighting desperately, but that the Tubo army would not give them a chance to fight desperately. Once they rushed down, the Tubo army would retreat and widen the encirclement. How far could they rush? Perhaps the general and himself could escape. At that time, there would be only 1,000 people left. 500 people? Or dozens of people? Not to mention how to explain to the emperor when they returned to the capital. Even the logistics camp in Pengzhou would be ashamed to see them. Along the way, the Tubo army had done everything they could, hoping that they would be victorious. Now they did not see victory, but they were forced to flee. How could they face the people who built the tents to cook porridge in the rain? How could they face the people who paved the road in the heavy rain? How could they face the people on the boats who were waiting for their triumphant return? If it was really time to break out of the encirclement, they would die here. They would definitely not go back alive. Wang Gang was the leader of a scout team. He had 50 people under him. Today, it was his turn to open up the path in front of the team. At the same time, he was also responsible for scouting ahead to see if there were any enemies and to get more prey. The scorching sun above his head did not change at all. It was already noon. Since 2 hours ago, he could not stop sweating. It was partly because he was nervous, but also because he kept chopping the branches with his knife. If the sky could be cloudy, he would really want to exchange a year of his life for it. It was really unbearable. The leather armor on his body was like a hot iron plate, making him feel uncomfortable. It would be even hotter in the afternoon. It would be better if he could drink a mouthful of cool water, just like the tea that the logistics camp gave him on the way here. There was no need to mention the taste. Unfortunately, the sun was still so hot. Although the forest could block a lot of the sunlight, it was unbearably hot in the forest. What about going up? They would freeze to death. He could not go up. He definitely could not go up. Once he went up, he would be even more tired. Moreover, it would take a lot of effort to breathe. At the same time, his hungry stomach would be even more unbearable. Leader Wang, I really can't take it anymore. I really want to die so that I don't have to suffer. It would be great if I could eat the food prepared by the logistics camp before I die. The smell is still there. Especially the mutton meatballs they made. I don't know what they put in, but they don't have any rank odor at all. One of the squad leaders beside Wang Gang licked his lips as he looked forward and said. Wang Gang glanced at the squad leader who came from the same village as him and sighed. Sigh. This is life. Stop dreaming. Hurry up and open up the path so that the team behind can move more easily. Maybe we can still have a chance to survive. Don't move. The grass under your feet can be eaten. Dig it out and eat it when it's time to eat. Don't let others see it. When we first came in, we saw a lot of wild beasts. I don't know where they are now. It would be great if there was a big rabbit. I can roast it and recover my strength. Of course it ran away. There are so many of us here. The wild beasts will be scared too. I don't expect a rabbit, but a snake will be fine too. Even if it's a rat, I really hope that this is a dream. When I wake up, I'll find that I haven't reached the border, and that the logistics camp is taking care of me. The squad leader carefully dug out the wild vegetables under his feet, not even sparing the roots. The more the vegetables, the higher the chances of survival. He looked around and put the wild vegetables in his arms. He wanted to share them with Wang Gang when no one was looking. It would be great if there was salt. Another ordinary soldier beside him saw what the squad leader was doing but did not point it out. He smacked his lips and said, There is everything. When we get back, the logistics camp will definitely prepare food for us in Pengzhou. You can eat as much as you want. There's also wine. As Wang Gang comforted the soldier, he casually plucked a leaf and put it in his mouth. The dry and astringent taste immediately filled his mouth, and the refreshing taste appeared as well. It was an addictive feeling. The team continued to move forward. No one knew what was waiting for them. Because they had not eaten any salt for several days, the strength of their bodies had become much weaker. This feeling was very uncomfortable. Of course, they did not know the principle of how salt worked in the body. They only knew that they had to eat it. Time passed quickly. Wang Gang, who was already numb, was about to ask the group under his command to stop and look for something to eat when the scout who was walking at the front hurriedly turned back and said to Wang Gang, Something's wrong. It's too quiet in front. There's not even the sound of birds chirping. Maybe there's a spitter waiting for us in front. This scout was quite experienced. Through the sounds in front of him, he discovered that something unusual was going on. At this time, Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao were also teaching others. Did you see that? The scout who just appeared in front has already discovered us. Do you know why? It's because we haven't hidden well enough in this place. We should spread out as much as possible. Otherwise, even the birds will be afraid. As long as there is an experienced person, he will be able to discover that something is wrong. Wang Wan had already seen the people in that group through the binoculars. From the expressions on their faces, she knew that they were not having a good time. The people in the protection team had already reached the front. However, the people in front did not discover them. Perhaps it was because they had exhausted too much energy, or perhaps it was because they were not comfortable fighting in the jungle. While Wang Wan was teaching others, Wang Gang seemed to be nervous. One by one, they pulled out their weapons and prepared for an attack. They also sent people back to quickly tell the people behind them about what happened here so that they could be more vigilant. If there was a battle here, the people behind them would have to think of a solution. Continue forward. Let's see who it is. If it's a few hunters who came to the mountain by chance, then... Wang Gang tried to make himself not so nervous. After giving orders to the people around him, he took down the bow on his back and pulled out the arrows, ready to kill later. The meaning of his words could not be clearer. They had encountered local people and must be killed. The team of 50 people began to move forward carefully. After waiting for half an hour, the person in the front finally discovered the situation there. However, He did not release the arrow in his hand. Instead, he stood there stupidly with a look of disbelief on his face. Wang Gang's eyes had a small problem. Usually he could not see it. However, after coming to the jungle, he always could not see things that were slightly further away. To be precise, he had pseudomyopia or night blindness. Seeing that his subordinates had stopped here, he approached and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" "Ah, boss, you're here. Look in front. Am I dreaming? There's actually someone there? And there's a flag with a rice seedling drawn on it. It's very cute. It's the same as the one we encountered at the border." The man rubbed his eyes hard twice. When he looked over again, the people in front of him were a little blurred. Who asked him to rub his eyes too hard just now? There's someone? Be careful. Wang Gang did not hear the man's words. He was so nervous that he only remembered that there were people. He quickly lay down on the ground, wanting to make his target smaller so that he would not be shot to death. After lying down, he suddenly thought of something and ordered archers go to the tree. As soon as his voice fell, before his subordinates could climb up the tree, a voice came from the surrounding trees. There's someone in the good position on the tree. Don't go up. How can you be a scout like this? If I were a tubo, I would have no problem dealing with 10 of you. Go to the front and eat. Who is it? Wang Gang rolled twice, turned over, and raised the bough to the tree. Logistics camp of Idyll. The person in the tree replied with a trace of arrogance. Then who is in front? Wang Gang was too nervous. When he heard the words logistics camp, he thought that they were in the territory, so he asked casually. The person in the tree snorted and said, "Nonsense, of course it's the logistics camp. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and eat. Are you confused because of hunger? Put away your weapons. If you accidentally hurt the young master and the young lady, don't think about eating anything." Wang Gang and the other 50 people felt that they were dreaming. Some even pinched the thighs of the people next to them to see if they were dreaming. Wang Gang understood what he said, but he was dumbfounded. In a daze, he walked to the front and finally saw a group of people waiting in front of him. He whispered to the people who saw him, but he didn't know what he said. "You're here. Are you here to bring us food? This dream is so good. I'm not afraid at all. Don't go first. Let me have a good dream. There's a girl here. Not bad. She's small. She can accompany me to sleep. Hee hee." With a paw sound, he was slapped in the face. At the same time, he saw the angry expression of the people here. "Who hit me? Ah, who are you?" Wang Gang, who was woken up by the slap, looked at the scene in front of him and shook his head hard. No one answered him. Fortunately, the people in his team were not as mentally weak as him. They were in a daze and said to him excitedly, "Boss, they're here. Boss, it's the logistics camp in Idyll. They're here. I fucking see people from the logistics camp. Boss, that's right. Look at their clothes and flags. Boss, we have something to eat." Wang Gang, who woke up, didn't need others to remind him. Seeing so many people in front of him, the clothes they wore and the flags they held, he knew that they were from the logistics camp. But because he saw them, he was even more confused. How did the logistics camp come here? If the surrounding scenery didn't tell him that this was the territory of Tubo, he would have thought that he was in the territory of the Tang Empire. Zhang Xiaobao stopped the subordinate who was about to slap Wang Gang again and said to him solemnly, "The logistics camp in Idyll is here to receive you by imperial decree." "Ah, it's really the logistics camp? Quick, send the news to the people behind." Wang Gang had forgotten the pain on his face. He screamed and ordered his subordinates. Soon, the news was sent to Guatude. Looking at the two scouts in front of him and hearing what they said, Guatude blinked his eyes that didn't have many eyelashes and repeated in disbelief, "The logistics camp in Idyll is here. They appeared in front of us. Do you believe it?" The two shook their heads at the same time. "Then why are you here? Are you kidding me?" Guatude roared. "But we did see people, and that lovely flag." One of the two replied timidly in a small voice, "You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.